if you're watching the race right now and you have some millions to burn, maybe an oil plant in your backyard, you can hit us up, I think, yeah.
Dude, didn't Sloot retire? I think I heard that.
Yeah, he did.
Dunzo.
God damn. Dude, they
It
like...
does feel like the burnout in high end very high right now.
Yeah, well, I heard that. I saw there was like a Method tweet about the Method raid leader guy. He tweeted like, sucks to see losing players to burnout. And that like really surprised me. Because I feel like, okay, the beginning of Dragonflight was crazy as fuck. Like, as far as like Race World First Guilds, like the amount of effort you had to put in was, it's always getting more and more, but like it was getting to extreme levels, I think. But now, it's like, I feel like this is the easiest it's been in years in this season right now for prepping for the race. You need less characters. The raids don't matter nearly as much. Like, we're doing them for sales and to get certain items and to get like evoker legendaries, but like that's pretty much it. So I feel like this is kind of the time where even if your entire guild wanted to only have like a couple of characters, then you actually probably could do that.
And even if you would only, like, even if you would want to stock up on characters again, you can just play 2 weeks hardcore before the, like 1 month before the race, and you would have, I don't know how many characters on 447 everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have everything. Basically. You could like gear up a character instantly, yeah. So like, I mean, I get it, but yeah, I mean, definitely there's going to be burnout. If it keeps getting crazy, it'll always be crazy. But like, if you have someone in your guild who's like super burnt out, just let them make way less characters. And then that's just kind of the, if they're good enough, I guess that makes sense.
What's even happening with like BDG? I actually have no idea what's happening there.
Yeah, I also don't know,
actually. It's like everywhere I know that used to play there is gone.
Well,
yeah, I don't think they're disbanding. I didn't see anything that they're disbanding, so.
I have no idea if they're disbanding. I don't really talk to a lot of people in BDG, but I kind of thought it might go in that direction a while ago. Because, like, think about it. They were, like, the best team in NA and one of the best in the world for rating their hours, like, before they went for World First. I think they were, like, a couple days a week, and they rated, like, really late in the night. So they had, like, a specific niche market for, like, getting the best players at that time slot. And then they go for World First. They get a sponsor. They don't gain a ton of ground there. They lose the sponsor recently. And then it's like, where do you go from here? Do you still keep rating all day, every day when it seems like you're not gaining traction? And Method like gained more traction than the normal third place guild. I definitely think they have to have like a come to Jesus moment of like, where are we going, right? Do we try to be good at something else? Do we keep doing this? You probably feel the same way as me, where like, could you ever really have fun rating less after doing this? Probably not, right? Like, so like,
oh, no. I think I would. Like I said already, if I don't play, like if I don't raid anymore, I would probably not play actively anymore.
Yeah, for sure. So like, what do you?
Well,
if you're them, what do you do?
Still be doing like, you'd still be doing like MDI and all that stuff, right?
I mean, to be honest, I think if you're not playing actively, playing MDI is also a little bit grief. Yeah, I would probably then rather have someone else play and like be 6 man or something. Yeah.
Wait, someone said BDG's leaked contracts are insane. Is that like a thing? Did I miss that?
Oh, insane in what way? Like,
I have never.
Oh, like the contract burnt them out or something? I could see that.
I thought they didn't get re-signed. That's what I heard.
Yeah, but I mean, that was a public info.
I mean,
that was not like...
Yeah.
Bro, I don't know what's happening with BDG, but when Pieces died, I didn't even blink. Like, I don't know, like, you need to be good. You need to, like, have the same good people around for a long time, right, in anything, and especially when their group size is this big. And just because of the way this is, I don't think our guilds are doing anything wrong, but Pieces got like their 20 best players or something over the course of 4 years, just constantly being recruited and taken away from their guild. That has to be psycho to try to keep competing when that's happening to you. Like, you just eventually, I don't even know how you deal with it. Like, I wouldn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember the spreadsheet Bastu showed where we took like 7 players of them, and you guys took like 5 or something. I'm like,
yeah, they were all their good players. They weren't random players. Yeah. They were their like players that, you know, were big parts of their guild. They were their best players. So like, yeah, man, I mean, it kind of sounds like shit coming from me because I'm certainly part of that. But you know, that's just kind of the way it is, and I just feel like it's doomed to kind of always repeat for the teams that are close.
Yeah. Also, I think it's one big issue is that the gap between the top 2 guilds and all the other teams is like so big when it comes to experience and preparation and basically everything, like the whole thing. It's so hard to just say, I want to compete as well for World First. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
And then even
But more
then,
than impossible.
there's no fucking money in it either. So like that's not even an incentive. You only do it if you love it.
Passion.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not. It's probably yeah. Who knows?
And then you need to find 30 other passionate gamers that wanna do it for basically nothing, yeah.
Well, there is a
And-
way that they could make it so that it's a little bit more accessible to people. 10-man. All right.
Oh my lordy.
Yeah. How do you feel about 10-man, Meeres?
I mean, to be honest, I never thought about it for a while. I think it's really cool in Final Fantasy. Like, I like Final Fantasy, like 8-man, let's say.
Oh, true.
It's kind of the same, I guess, yeah.
Yes.
It is really cool,
So
but it's
fun.
it's such a different way to play. Like, the whole game
Very
would need
different
to be
game.
different, yeah. Like, because Final Fantasy has nothing to do with WoW. If you look at the difficulty and how the game is played, is like the exact opposite. In Final Fantasy, you play the mechanics and like the damage kind of comes passive, let's say, I guess, right?
There's only single target.
Yeah, it's only a single target, and then, wow, like 10-man. I mean, right now in the current game, 10-man would not work. Yeah, like I guess your raid would be filled
Bro,
with,
even if you removed
with
raid
the buffs,
buffs,
and that's it. Yeah.
even if you removed
not
raid
it.
buffs in current WoW, it would still be the most class stacked shit ever. If you had to whittle it down to 10, the classes that have more value with utility and just overall power in 10 would be so selective. Like you would not come in. There's 38 specs in this game. You'd see like exactly 13 of them or something. Like you'd never see any more than that.
But if it would not be the case, and it would be more accessible to, like, play whatever like would fit or whatnot, I think 10-man would probably bring back a lot of people to raiding, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't think it would help the race. Like the race would first seen. I mean, I guess it would help it so you would need
That'd
less
be
people.
so
but
sad. I don't even know what the fuck we do.
Yeah.
Like a couple years ago, it'd be fine because I feel like we had like 10 absolutely fucking banger players, and then like there was like a level under that. But then as the years have gone on, you definitely have way more than that. So like, what the fuck do you do? But I mean, like, forget about race because like race is like kind of its own thing. But I feel like 10-man rating would make rating content worse. It would lower the integrity. It would lower the quality of rating, but it would make it much more accessible. So something like that could be good.
Don't you think they've kind of made this weird, like, silent pivot with how their raid boss fights work since they stopped testing the end boss encounters? Like, with how much more scripted things like Sarkareth are, and how much they've, like, grown and changed how the end bosses are designed as a whole. It's like,
yeah, I think they mentioned it in the interview Max had, right? That they want to swap away from like the super long last bosses and make them shorter, let's say, I guess.
Ultimately, I would say, if we're thinking about like a range of end bosses in time and how much their average duration is, I wouldn't say, 730 is like the new benchmark. I think this is, though, I would say a kind of indication of that scale shifting down, right? Like I think 10 minutes is kind of something that we think of, okay, 10 minutes is towards the top of that band where we would want to see the boss duration go. Certainly like 15-minute fights. If Mike and the team came to me and was like, we would make a 15-minute fight, I'd be like, make it 2 fights. So yeah, I think that just kind of speaks to, kind of philosophy shifting and things changing over time. So
yeah, so I think like part of that would be more conducive. Not maybe 10-man, 12-man, whatever, just like reduced raid size for Mythic as well. Or you like wouldn't lose too much. But like it would require a ridiculous heap of like class changes, buff changes, utility stuff.
I mean, it would have to be a whole new expansion. Here's why.
Yeah, that too.
I don't know if it would be like, I think it would lower my enjoyment of the game a lot, but obviously it might be better for like the majority of the game. So I'm not saying like that's just my opinion. Like I don't know if I would be for it. But I do think if they were to announce a new expansion at BlizzCon and on the title card they mentioned they were bringing 10-man rating back, that might be on a short list of like 2 things or 3 things where WoW would gain the most hype for an expansion. I think people would be losing their minds if like the hardest difficulty was 10-man, because I think a lot of people would just like think about their old guilds they were in. They'd be typing in those discords, yo, let's play WoW. Like it'd be really fucking big.
Yeah, I agree. It's also so much easier to find 10 people. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
What did you think about the short boss on Sarkareth?
I mean, for me personally, I think the boss was weird because, like, I mean, first of all, I think the boss could have had at least a minute longer, let's say, I guess. Obviously not how it was designed, but of the base design. And what I dislike personally, I feel like on a progress boss is if you can get to last phase without basically doing anything, I guess. Yeah, like everything is just full timer, and you just live, let's say, and then you see the end of the fight. That feels really anticlimactic to how I like to progress bosses, where you just, I mean, what is a good example? I mean, I guess Rosageth is a bad example because of how overtuned it was, but at the end of the fight, it was like a clear progress that you made. Like you hit 75%, you need to hit in the mission, then you hit the other phase, and then you have like a progress through the boss. And Sarkareth, we saw like the last phase, 10 pulls in, I'm like, that's kind of weird, right? Like you're 6 minutes in, obviously boss is not dying, but you kind of saw everything already, so.
Even not even the last phase, but like
sure.
when we killed Neltharion the night before, we like 8 healed or something and just did all the mechanics in P1, didn't care about damage, just to like see farther in the fight, and it didn't affect you in any way. Like it was almost like, you know, you would need to get to 70% in P1 to push P2, but then that's kind of how like some bosses were, like Denathrius, right? But then those fights have damage holding concerns, so like the way you fight damage holding is just having it be a flat phase time, but then it just allows you to cheese it with overhealing it and seeing farther.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do think they're right with shorter bosses though. Not at 7.
Oh, yeah, for sure,
730
for
is
sure.
insane. 730 is like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't know going into this tier what you guys thought, but I was like, yo, this is definitely going to be like a 9, 9.5.
Yeah, we
like,
thought like 9. We thought of one luster. That was our idea.
yeah.
But not a 7.5. Yeah, there's.
Yeah, 7.5 was
That's
fucking
crazy.
insane. Like when we were looking at the boss HP, we were like, yo, this boss is going to be a complete joke. And then we're like, oh, okay, never mind. The Enrage is just fucking a minute and a half more than we thought it, or less than we thought it would be. But I think 9, 10 is just infinitely better than 14. Like 14 is just fucking lame. Pretty much every boss that's 14 minutes is like there's almost an entire part of the fight that didn't need to be there and the boss would be better. But it's the same thing with Sarkareth though. Like Sarkareth at 7.5 was clearly missed. Like P2 I think is the thing that was off with Sarkareth. Like that could have been a fully thought out phase. Like P1 was awesome. I think P3 was good. Some problems. P2 was fucking seemed like
P2 was
completely
really-
incomplete. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, P2 felt like they had a lot more. Like there was more in the initial idea, I guess, of the boss, and it was too complicated or too hard, and they cut it because they were maybe phase 2, and then it was just left with nothing basically. I don't know, but I do very strongly agree that a 14-minute fight or above 10 minutes is really horrible. I mean, I can feel it in farm when we were farming Rosageth like 8 times per week. And I was sitting there and you suffered at the end, and then you wiped on like 10%, and you look at the clock and it was 13-minute attempt. You're like, ha, not again. And then in Sarkareth, you wipe at 5 minutes in and you're like, oh, it's all good. Yeah. Basically, nothing wasted, let's say, I guess. Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't
you also have these like RP phases where it's like running around on like Sylvanas chains or like handing the orbs off on Gahoon and stuff. It just like feels like you're just sitting around doing not much.
Dude, the best example of this is P1 Sylvanas on Mythic. Or not Sylvanas, P1 Ashara. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
like what
yeah.
what the fuck does that have any business being a phase on a Mythic boss? You know?
Yeah, why that was actually really surprising. Why did I not get the Gul'dan treatment where they just rip the first phase and be like,
Yep.
oh, it's fine, you don't need to play that. But instead I was standing there as a boomkin healing on my team because nothing to do, yeah? Oh my god, I'll never forget. No, but I think it's interesting with the only concern I have, I think, in the next raids is because of the like themes and whatnot, and we're fighting all these big bosses and dragons and whatnot. Man, I really hate fighting these big dragon models, yeah. Maybe it's because I'm the tank and I just can't see anyone in the raid. I just have big wings and a face and like some claws. But the boss models are too big, yeah. I don't know.
I feel like my biggest wonder going forward in rating is it sounds like based on that interview that they're pretty happy with the upgrade system, right? Like I thought after seeing it, I'm like, oh, this is like the difference between what it was before and what it is now. Blizzard, knowing them, they probably felt like they overstepped and were going to nerf it a little bit. And then they kind of implied that it was pretty normal.
Yeah.
And that was like really surprising because like I don't like for the rest of the game, it's obviously really, really good. And if you look at like the amount of time and pulls that most guilds in the world, as JB put it, that don't have their own private chefs are taking on these bosses, or even if you separate it out to like top 50, top 100, like outside of the very, very top teams, everyone this was just a normal raid for them because they just got their gear earlier, but they needed that gear eventually to kill those bosses in previous patches anyway. So like It's more like, is the race world first always going to be like, if you wonder why this raid seemed undertuned, this is the actual number. I think we had, Bubba actually pulled this number up. I think we were 3 eye levels higher killing Sarkareth on Monday of the first week relative to that patch's eye level than we were pulling Razageth on Friday in week 2. 3 eye levels higher in a previous week than later into another week. That's like 2 or 3 weeks. How long would it take you to get 3 more eye levels after Razageth? What, 2, 3 resets?
I mean, that's insane. Yeah,
That's like
yeah.
that. So I mean, if they're tuning the bosses for the rest of the game, my only concern if they do that is, I'm afraid we won't ever get like a sludge fist again. I'm afraid that if there's like a single target burn boss, we're never gonna actually have to fully fucking optimize like all of your damage to kill something at our level. I know what we do is like really niche and it doesn't relate to a lot of people, but it is possible that with the upgrade system that I think is best for the rest of the game, that it might diminish what we do a little bit.
I feel like cap it on week 1 or something like that, and then open up the floodgates.
Well, see, I don't think they should do anything for us though. That's the weird thing. Like I'm saying that I would, like, I'm worried about that, but I also wouldn't openly advocate that they make some kind of restriction just for us, and then like every Mythic Plus player is like reeing, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I do get that, but I think like there's 2 points to what you said. I think like the Sludge Fest not being there, I think is fine, right? But I personally would still like it even if we have the crazy gear that we will have like every time. At least the last boss should be like a damage cook
or an Eltharion.
Yeah? Like I don't. Yeah. I don't want to go to the last boss and be like, yo, if we don't die, we will kill the boss automatically, more or less, yeah? Like, everyone equips Spore Cloak here, guys. We're just going to vape it out and kill the boss, yeah?
Even Neltharion. Neltharion was like, you live to the end, everyone soaks their portals, and it's dead. You go to Sarkareth, you live to the end of that fight, and it's like really dead, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Because like, they don't need to tune those bosses that week for anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think it's fine that, for example, the last 2, or maybe only the last, if they really dislike the whole system, right? It can be hard. Like, no one is going to reach it for instantly, right? So I think it can be hard for us or for the race to person, and they can just instantly nerf it. I think I would be personally more happy with that. And on the other hand, what I found a little bit weird after looking at some like other guilds is, of course, people disliked or like were less incentivized to raid this time because they were basically already bis-geared. So they never started re-clearing it ever again after like 4 weeks of raiding because they're like, why would I kill Zakali and how is he called? Rashok for 444 loot if my whole raid can just go M plus 441 and craft 447 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So they just extended all the time and they basically never re-killed anyone, let's say.
That's what my guild did.
Yeah,
we
but that's
never re-cleared.
Is that bad? Like, I wonder with how long WoW raids take to clear compared to like really any other game that has anything close to this, and the difficulty of it. If these people are spending months to clear this shit, a decent amount of that time is re-clearing content. Like, I wonder how much value there actually is in having a shorter like overall time to clear to the last boss, but most of that is because you're extending and not re-killing bosses you've already killed because you already have the gear.
Well, the thing is, when you re-clear, that's also like you're killing this boss again and getting excited, or you should want to get excited about getting loot from the first 4 bosses, first 5 bosses, first whatever. But then when it's such a marginal upgrade over just like slamming M+, it kind of just like, oh, well, there's not much point to this. Go do it on your own time, and then we're going to dedicate all our raid time to like progging the next boss fight instead of like using raid time to help continue the gearing process, if that makes sense.
I don't know. We're at a crossroads. I think next raid is gonna be fucking insanely interesting, because like we just got done with Razageth being like this super long slog. Literally every phase is overtuned as fuck when you first get there, and then it's nerfed insane. And then they did create a raid where we ran into virtually 0 bugs and very little overtuning or any overtuning, and that's the first time that's ever happened, which is good. But then it also resulted in some of the bosses not challenging you as much as you would want. And that how they find the middle ground for that is going to be interesting, I think. I would say it's probably going to be closer to now than it is Razageth again, right? Yeah, I think that's probably a good guess, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. If they find the middle ground between Razageth and Sarkareth with like a 10-minute fight, that would be kind of cool, I think. Maybe, like I said, implement the damage. Like a little bit of a damage squeeze, I guess, on the last boss, and then it could be kind of nice.
Dude,
Or
Flex is
bring
actually
Heroic
right.
Week back, yeah.
Flex is actually right. I feel like we were kind of robbed on Razageth. That fight was way too long, but the weekend of optimizing damage and killing that boss with its current health would have been fucking insane. But they just didn't do that because of Christmas.
Oh yeah, I mean actually that would have been a lit ending to the race, but holy fuck, that would have been.
You would have done
Paying
like
for everyone,
4
yeah.
or 5. You would have been like 4 or 5% to 0, and cooking that up with like basically the ground fully covered. That would have been fucking wild.
Yeah, I mean we definitely would have. I think both guys could have easily killed the boss without the nerf. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been
Like,
like
would've been a
at
long-
least a day
long
or
progress,
two.
yeah.
At least a
Yeah,
day
like
or
2.
two.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there was so much
Also-
damage to get earlier too.
Yeah, I think we also like we had some people swap actually on our kit like when they hotfixed it because like we didn't even know what the hotfix was, right? Like they just said, yeah, we changed some things, and we're like, oh, that's nice, right? And we had people play like more single target oriented builds already because they started cooking without us basically saying, go, let's cook, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had like randomly less damage in the intermission, and then the boss just died like without any big efforts, I guess, yeah. But we could feel it already that in the intermissions the damage was getting a little bit spicy when people started playing single target almost, yeah, only. So, oh yeah, Canex enhanced and rogues went for single target, yeah. So the intermissions were a bit spicy, yeah. Also, another completely off-topic thing, they need to release the easier and better raid skips for farm raids.
Oh
That's
my god, yes.
that's my dream, yeah. Like this is not a big issue, I think, for like the overall raiding community, but man, I would love to just go to the bosses that I can like choose. And
Yeah.
not only always clear like some random piss bosses 18 times per week.
I could look this up, but I'm pretty sure we've killed Sarkareth like something like 40 times or something like that. At that point, you should just be able to just like walk in and go into any boss you want.
Exactly, yeah. Like I it's fine with me that you need to kill like one boss 3 times to unlock the raid, to unlock the skip. But then I also want to just walk up to Rashok and kill Rashok only, and not kill 3 bosses in between because they're there. I don't know.
Yeah, we've just been doing 7 out of 9s or 10s. I don't know how many bosses there are for a while.
Yeah, 7 out of 9. Yeah.
We just kill like the first 5, skip Skarn and Magmarax because their loot fucking stinks, and then we just do Nelth and Sark. I feel like that's been nice.
Oh yeah, I mean we did it as well, and I'm so surprised that Blizzard outplayed themselves with this box change. Yeah, like I don't know, like I'm not sure if you know, but we never killed the Dathea like ever. Basically, we killed her like 5 times at total, I think, and I have like 90 Razageth kills. So we never unlocked the box loot of Dathea because it was just horrible. And now with the change that you unlock everything if you kill the bosses after, we're like, oh, that's nice. Now we never need to kill Skarn and Magmarax because we get auto unlock of the bosses if some people maybe want a trinket, yeah? Somehow they made it so what we wanted happened, I guess, yeah.
Super off topic. Are they renaming Twitter? Oh yeah, I was gonna say something about Crit Phial earlier. Bro, that thing is a plague. So many people don't know like how it really affects your guild. Like we were doing Nelth, and we were at the point of the fight where we realized that we just needed to live to the end, not early deaths, and kill it. And there was a couple death logs after we had talked about that as a team where there was Crit Phial in it, and I was fucking gonna lose my mind, man. I just feel like so many people don't get how it actually affects you. Like, even if you're not gonna die, right? Like, say you're a rogue and you have cheat, and you're like, oh, I'm not scared of Crit Phial because I'm not in danger. But if you are the person in raid where your health is at 30%, in that split second when every healer's mouse goes over to heal you, they're not thinking like, oh, this person has cheat. Oh, they're not in danger. I'm not going to heal them. No, you're the person they're casting their heal on. So like, then during raid damage, other people who actually need help aren't getting healed. So it's just like, it's like a chain reaction of bad as fuck for like almost no gain.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I completely agree. I think the worst part about the Crit Phial is when people like unexpectedly get hit with the double dot, yeah, like the one when it's procced and the toxic one. And then they actually take like decent damage and then they die. And then you look in the death log and you see the Crit Phial there and you're like, should I and then I'm in the position, should I say something towards this? Should I not? Because it's like 0.2% damage increase probably over using like Verse, unless you're like a really crazy class, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't care in farm.
Yeah, I don't care in
but
farm. And like people in chat are like, I'm gonna say that to people in my guild. Though you don't say that to people in your guild. You guys are like killing bosses for fun, man. We're talking like literal competition. Like you should be making the best choice for us with our goal in mind, which is like contrary to doing these things, and people do them. It's fucking maddening. It's fuck, it gets me good.
Yeah, and then I think the best part about this is when then people play the crit file and again like I said 0.2% DPS, and on the other hand you have the super nice guy XYZ DPS who plays instead of the master embellishment who has like 10% uptime, he plays the spore cloak, yeah, and he's like sacrificing the damage for the super survivability, and the other guy is like, holy fuck, heal me more for 0.1% damage increase.
I guess Spore Cloak is kind of the same thing, like whether you choose to play Spore. I bet that's like a big thing in raiding guilds. It's like being a guild leader and trying to convince people to play the thing that makes the most sense for progression. But yeah,
Actually, what is your take on the Sarkareth cloak with no stamina on it?
I mean that's like the opposite of Spore Cloak. It's like
Exactly.
yeah, I would say in almost all scenarios outside of Race to World First, wearing the Sarkareth cloak for progression is hard griefing. For the same reason as Crit Flask. Your health is lower, so your HP bar is going to look lower, and you will get heals maybe when you don't need it, or in the more direct sense, you'll probably just die more. Don't you lose like 8% health? Is that the number? It's like something...
I actually don't know the percentage, but it's like around 30k HP. That's all I know.
That's a big number. I don't know.
I think, and especially for like scaling classes like Warlock and DK, like they have stamina multipliers is like 40k almost. I think it's like crazy number for not having a cloak equipped.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would say is even if it was a damage increase, it would blow my fucking mind if anyone in our guild was wearing a Sark cloak for progression next year. That would blow my mind. So meaningless.
Oh yes, and I think the best part is always when I look at the tank sims, yeah, and all the tank sims have the Sarkareth cloak equipped, yeah, and I'm like, holy moly, let me counter sim how much a normal cloak upgrade, like the difference is, and then it's like 0.4% of a tank DPS. I'm like, guys, why would I ever want this item in my bag? Yeah, it's completely useless.
Dude, I think they're gonna, after this next raid, they're gonna be forced to give hunters some kind of raid buff. I think, because I don't know where exactly it's gonna land, but I'm just gonna go ahead and say there's probably a good chance you run 1 or 2 augmentation, and if that's the case, you probably had like 8 free raid spots to bring someone who didn't have a raid buff last raid, and now it's like 6. And the smaller that number gets, the more insane your damage needs to be brought to a raid for no other reason than you do damage. And if they don't have an insanely well-tuned patch, I think hunters are going to be fucking breaking down the walls at Blizzard. They're over it.
Yeah, actually, I mean, you say 6 slots, right? But I think it's more like 4, right? Every time I look at the raid comp, you're like, also, I mean, technically you need 1 warrior in the group, but are you ever gonna play the raid comp without double rally, like on proper progress and stuff?
True.
So
yeah.
It goes down a decent amount, I think, towards the later parts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I made like a sheet about this at some point. Oh yeah, I found it. You end up making a comp with all the actual raid buffs, and then you throw in 2 augmentation, and then you throw the things that you most likely need. Like you might not need a DK in every fight, but if you need a grip on the last boss, they need to have gear. And if there's like Scar, you need to have them have gear. So DKs are almost always in the comp. And then what's more likely, bringing a singular hunter or shaman, or a second lock, a second druid, or a second warrior? I think you're infinitely more likely to bring a second of all 3 of those things, or a third of one of them, than you are to bring another class, because they just don't bring anything. It's fucking...
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Yeah. I mean, now, and also with the rogue rework coming in, I swear they're gonna get some
throw 2 of those. Throw 2 of those in there.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, even though melees right now are really in a bad spot, I think like the overall melee, like how good melee is, has become like on a really downtrend. All of the melee specs are kind of like whatever compared to the range specs.
I was actually thinking about that. We talked earlier about how Guardian Druid they're in the raids for the first time in 6 years in an ideal world if like a new raid started right now. When was the last time it was proper to bring a Feral Druid?
Oh, I think that was before my time. Yeah, I don't know. It must have been a long time ago.
I think it was Siege of Orgrimmar. They were the best class in the game. So I don't know if there was one after Siege. Yeah, that's it's been a long time, and it's kind of the same thing. I mean, if you look at this list, right? How many melee spots do you have in a raid? Like 5, 6 usually. And how many of those are buffs or rallies? Like almost all of them.
Yeah, it's 2 rally. It's a rogue for the poison. It's probably enhanced because he's just buffing the other people as well. and gives movement speed. Like, I don't know. Then you have a second Pala coming from somewhere, I guess. Maybe I read this probably.
Kinda. Dude, I'm fucking Red Aura, they need to make that shit better. Did you fuck with your Red Aura uptime at all in progression?
We never paid attention to it because we didn't, we never had to cook damage, right? So to be honest, never.
We paid attention to it on the last day because Ironi was like, yo, you guys are never getting Red Aura on the pull, and it's with Lust and all your cooldowns, so it'd like give you a little bit of damage. So we like thought about it for a bit, and we ended up having to have Scott turn around and sit down and pull the boss and get fucking just murdered on the pull, so we could actually have Red Aura proc with all of our cooldowns. So, like, unless you have a Blood Decay, you just have to do degen shit like that to get any kind of damage from it. I just like if it's enabled to be in the game, if they want Red Aura to be a buff, clearly that's the case. Then why make it so weird to obtain?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Red Aura in general is just, I mean, it's really useless as well. Then specking it as a Holy Paladin is like, or like using it as a Holy Paladin is super counterproductive because you don't want to AM Red Aura. So if you then swap it around, you get punished as well because you can't proc anymore. I don't know. It's just such a, it's really out of place. It feels like they wanted to give Red like the unique experience of having a buff, but they kind of messed it up, I think.
Any rebuttal, Zyro? Is he gone?
I think so.
I guess we're just
gone.
cooking it up about raid stuff.
So it was like, I'm only a plus gamer from now on.
Wait, what are you actually playing? Or are you not playing?
No, I said Zyro is only.
Oh, what about your thing though? I
yeah.
thought you posted that you weren't sure if you were gonna play.
No, I did actually post an update.
Oh,
Not so
shit.
long ago, I guess. No, but how's it called? No, I mean, I did play. I like someone else is doing like say I was doing setups now for us and stuff. I'm like doing a little
Oh.
bit less and whatnot. Yeah.
Wait, so what all were you in charge of doing? Not in like a. So do you think you were burned out with the amount you were putting into the guild?
Yeah, I think so.
Fuck, I need to look at that for Scott. I think Scott is doing a lot of what you're doing. He's not doing any like strategy stuff, which I think you're pretty involved with, but he does all of our splits, basically all of our recruitment. And I used to do both of those jobs, and that burned me the fuck out. So I think I might need to. The best way, I think splits burns. Literally, it is impossible to not get burned out from just doing splits. So I think the reality is just every like 1 or 2 tiers, you just need to have someone else do it because it is not possible for one human to do it longer than that and survive.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I was basically doing everything guild related, let's say, apart from healing because there was Rismos doing that. So, yeah, like I was looking for people, I was talking to everyone, I was making setups, I was telling people what characters to play, what we're gearing, what we're raiding. Basically
Wow.
everything. Let's say, I guess, yeah.
That's insane.
And now Sev was doing setups, so I'm more free on a weekly basis, yeah. And obviously, all of these jobs were getting piled up, let's say, especially during MDI weeks or whatever. So we hopped from practice. I don't know, we practiced like 12 hours per day, and I'm like, guys, I'm gonna make setups now. And then I spent 4 or 5 hours on setups per week, and it was just too much, yeah.
That's like a decent amount of all the stuff that I do too. Like I think that's something we did really different this year. Is like I remember hearing after the raid, I think Scripes was talking about like gearing and stuff. And like one thing I did this raid is I didn't do a fucking thing with gearing. Like that was just I didn't even want to know what those fucking aspects were. Like I don't want to know anything about that. That was just like fully handled by Bubba, a team of analysts, and a bunch of spreadsheets. And I never even thought about it. So during all of those raids and all of those gearing, I basically raid led the first few of them, and then I just got to sit there and like watch other guilds do mythic. I got to watch heroic. I got to like fully cook up Sarkareth and like every mythic boss, and I thought that time was invaluable, and I was mind blown when I found out after the raid that Scripe was basically trying to do all of that and like being the main gearing person. Or was he the main gearing person?
Yeah. I mean, of course, he also has we also have analysts helping, of course.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, Scribe was completely cooked. Like you don't I don't know if this is public info, but I think it's fine to say. But Scribe was so cooked on the threads, and like not threads, on the gear and like the splits, that he had not realized that the Nefarian fire circle is expanding until we were there in Mythic, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, at least in his defense, I think they changed that like
Well, yeah, of course.
like the day before the raid, right?
Of course, yeah. But that like he hadn't looked at any split game like gameplay, any heroic of anyone else ever, like from anyone basically.
Oh
yeah?
shit. Yeah.
because he was so like the loot. I mean, I must say this loot situation is also becoming out of hand. So I
Oh,
get
yeah.
what he was doing was way too much. Yeah. So
I wonder what our splits were actually really interesting. I wonder which one was better. Well, I don't, it's hard to tell because like you guys, I think you guys did 20 heroics. Is that right? Is that number right?
ooh, yeah, maybe.
So we
I
did.
mean, we ended up. I think no, it was maybe the 24. I mean, we did triple core. Wait, I'm whooping out the calculator. It's too late. 1 sec. No, we did 24 exactly. We triple cored 8 runs. Yeah.
Okay, so that we did the same. I think we did 24, but we did hopping around more. They weren't full clears, and that was like optimizing trinkets. I think, which I know you guys went like into LFR to get some more essences, and I think we ended up getting. I don't know if we got lucky or because we did like more optimized runs of them, but like we tried to like our best to optimize the trinkets, which like took a little bit extra time. But I know like our eye level was the same, but I think we had like a few more trinkets or like heroic
Yeah,
trinkets
actually-
than you all did.
Yeah, we did exactly. I mean, we also optimized and hopped around for trinkets. That was kind of the same thing. But like Revis in this case, who went LFR right for the trinket, was just super unlucky. He had just 6 warriors where the trinket was dedicated for him to drop, and it didn't drop in any run. And I think he had a normal version on one of his characters, but then there was basically no other loot that dropped apart from the trinket. So we said, that's kind of useless because he's going to be progressing like 95% of the time, let's say, as the main warrior. So he got the run where he got like Ashkandu and like a lot of other items in heroic, but no trinket, and that's why we had to go LFR. But also we get I don't know how many characters you get, but we get a lot of characters for potential swapping on the last bosses if it's hard and we need to change comp and whatnot. Yeah, what obviously
did
in the
that.
end was completely useless, and they could have ran with the same comp probably the
Dude,
whole raid.
We
yeah.
thought Demo was going to be a lot better on the last boss, and I don't really know why it wasn't. Like if you think about it, like that fight, like Demo is great with PI. Demo's scale has like really low points in their downtime, and it's like, dude, what a perfect fight where during your downtime you can go get haste buffs and then basically give yourself a giga PI with all of your cooldowns.
Yeah.
And so that was the main thing we prepped, was like we thought double Shadow Priest potentially because they had like a ton of value, PI included, plus it was a good boss for them. We thought an extra Demo or two in like a perfect damage optimization world where basically you're going down almost exclusively just to get damage from it. And just none of that mattered. I don't know.
I mean, we also had I think we also had 4 warlocks prepared, I think. I mean, but I think we probably almost prepared the same things. I mean, you just prepare the OP classes a few times more often than you have in the raid. So if you really need to class tech, you have it ready, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think you guys didn't have 2 DKs prepared or playable. I'm not sure how your
Yeah, that was like
DK playing
a...
situation is looking. But
We kind of got griefed by Dorki before the raid coming out. High key.
Oh, shit.
Because like...
Really?
Yeah, so basically our DK situation, I could explain a lot of other variables. We had like 5 players who could play DK, but all of them were in the raid all the time and they were playing other things that we needed. And basically our second DK was Lip. So basically Lip was going to either be Ret or DK. I preferred DK. His DKs got completely fucked. Like not a single heroic Ashkander. I think his like tier situation was like kind of sketchy and it wasn't fixable really with the Omnis. Like it was really weird. And his Ret Paladin got literally everything in the world. So basically we were like, wherever we would play 2 DKs, we would just play Lip as Ret instead because we thought Ret was solid. And then we would just, if we really needed a second one on Skarn, we would just play Blood, which we did. And his Blood DK was fucking dog shit. That was like pretty much our only thought with it. We wanted to have 2 DKs anyway because like, I mean, 2 DKs on last boss is definitely the best thing to do, which we didn't have. But they, yeah, Dorki, when Dorki came here, it was going to be either Dorki or Yips tanking. And then Yips would play Shadow Priest if like Shadow Priest was better than DK, DPS DK, and Dorki would, or Yips would tank if like we wanted a second DK, and then Dorki like, I don't know, like couldn't sign a contract or something, I don't know.
I see. Oh, okay, not even gameplay.
No, yeah, no.
Direct grief, I see.
Yeah, he lost world
Oh my
first to
God.
a pen.
Oh my lordy. Okay, I see. I don't know. I mean, for us it was also, I mean, you guys had a new tank, we had a new tank. Yeah,
Surprisingly,
Actually,
that
exciting
wasn't
time,
cursed.
yeah.
Because like we before now came here and I started doing like the 21st man thing. We tried to have me go out of the raid or go DPS a long time before that. So we like tried to have Trill tank. It just didn't work. It didn't make sense. We tried to have multiple other people tank, and every single time it was like, you need to tank again. And it was like, okay. And then finally we got Now, and it was a thing. And then ever since then, we like tried other tanks after Ben wanted a DPS, and it was always sketchy. And then we recruited Yips, and I was like, honestly, like Yips was really good, but I had a lot of apprehension because I think tanking is one of those roles, you know this, where it's like really hard to do in the race because like there's really no way to prepare for it. Like what kind of challenges you run into in the race as a tank is you can't really, raid tanking doesn't really prepare you for that very well. It's like much higher difficulty, you have much less gear. I don't know. It's just like your consistency is so important for progression. There's so much relying on you. And he did insane. And I was expecting it to maybe be sketchy with Ben being gone, honestly. But it was really good.
No, I mean, I mean, Andy also did a good job. Of course, I think for me it's even worse. Like, I mean, I said this already. I think my situation, like tanking with me, is like a little bit weird, I guess. With Robin, I was always like vibing because obviously I'm playing MDI with him as well. He knows me like very well, I guess. But I'm also raid leading, right? Like in the early phases when Scribe is not raid leading. So I don't really like, to be honest, I don't really give a fuck about the tanking mechanics as long as everything works, let's say, right? Like I figured out once with the other Andy, let's say. And from then on, I will never say anything about it again because I'm like raid leading or saying other things, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really different experience, I guess, for the other tank. I mean, we had to get used to it, but I think it was
that
good
is super interesting that you guys have that dynamic where you can just raid lead and he leaves and looks later in the fight. I don't know why it just feels so uncomfortable doing that. And I have like multiple, like Zevi more than anyone could call the fight, but I just feel like being there is super important. Obviously having time to look, I guess it doesn't really matter now because we take a lot more breaks now. I don't know if you looked at like or if you care about this at all.
No, I did see the statistic page if you're referring to that you linked. You know, the I'm in raid and pulled and whatnot. I don't know what it's called.
That would have been much different in previous raids. We pulled a lot slower this raid and took more time to make sure we knew what we were doing, which is something you guys have done for a very long time. And we were like kind of the opposite of that. And yeah, I think it helped a lot, and it really, really helped me solve a lot more problems, which is like kind of my only job. It seems like you and Scripe have kind of, because like so many people don't understand what raid leading is, but I really feel like more than anything else, it is your ability to solve problems. Like that's what you're doing. Like the calling things out is like part of it, I guess, but it's like your ability to solve problems. It seems like you calling things out allows Scripe to be much more of a problem solver and using his time effectively. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it was really bad this raid actually. I mean, the value was very low on Sarkareth because the hard parts of the fight, I mean, okay, I was calling first phase and second phase, right? But I mean, to be honest, you can play those blind. I think.
Yeah, they're super mechanical and repetitive. Yeah.
Like it's really easy, and there's also no RNG. It's always the same thing, like 100% of the time. So that was like a little bit useless. And then on the more exciting parts of the fight, I guess, where I could have helped with raid leading, the tanky PV on this fight was actually probably the worst I had in years. Going down 19 times and just looking at the fucking stars, and I just see Big Wig's time
oh
only.
my god, that's actually so true.
Like, what am I gonna do here? Yeah. And then one time Scribe was not there for when I go down for the second third breath, when like the intermission happens and shit, because I'm doing like the job outside alone. So I'm like downstairs and I'm like, well, Scribe, where are you? And he was like busy doing something else or whatever. And I'm like, Scribe, I need you, because I didn't even know what's happening outside. Yeah, I'm like full, like radio only. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, bait the blossoms, ready for knockback, position yourself good, CC the ads, and I don't even know what's happening outside. Yeah, and then Sarah was like randomly, bro, the ad is not inside. I'm like, oh, how the fuck am I supposed to know? Yeah, it was pretty horrible. Yeah.
So my normal POVs like kind of swap around a lot, but I usually watch like Fired Up or Splat or something like that. And Fired Up, I was watching him on that fight, and then he started doing bombs, and then I realized like mid one of the pulls, I was like, oh fucking hold up, someone fucking call what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. So then I had to swap their POVs. So I had like a 2 monitor thing, and I would like swap who I was watching based on whether they were going down or up. It was very cursed. I found some way around it, but it was not ideal. And being in the raid would be totally fucked. Like I'm trying to imagine like raid leading like I used to while being in the raid and tanking, and just what the fuck do you do? Because when I did that, I did not have a Roger. I did not have you to like do that. I was on my own. So like
I mean, of course,
yeah, that would have been fucking miserable.
That would have been really horrible. Actually, on this fight, like, it was also not nice because normally in these cases when, for example, Scribe is like looking at things or not supposed to call, and I'm calling, but then something happens to me. Roger is there to back me up, but Roger was not in the raid because Hunter was super bad. So I was basically left alone, let's say, and I don't know. I mean, this raid was definitely cursed in terms of how we normally work with the calling, but it also didn't matter, I think, at all, because the boss was very scripted and everyone had reminders as well. So if you had just 2 eyes and were looking at your reminders, you kind of knew what was happening. Yeah. So it was more like for the repetition thing that obviously people were like getting used to the calls and what to do and whatnot. Yeah.
Did I wonder if have you guys considered putting Roger on something else that can be in the raid more?
I mean, yeah, there was a long I think after Ashara, Flex and me were advocating for Magulina. Yeah, that's Roger's mage. We're like, man, Roger, yeah, mage is basically we can guarantee mage is always in. Yeah, and it never happened. So yeah.
Well, Mage and Hunter are so different play styles. It'd be much easier to swap to Mage now. Because, like, I think about that a lot. Because, like, Zevi is probably the closest person in my raid to Roger, I think. And he is someone that, like, no matter what, I make sure, like, it would make no sense for him to not be in the raid. He needs to be in the raid. So, like, he plays a bunch of different things. And Hunter is just a class increasingly that's, like, hard to bring in. But he is, like, an insane Hunter. So it's, like, how do you... You know, if Hunter's good, you want him to be in the raid and playing that. I bet he would, I mean, I don't know this, but I would imagine he would probably admit that he probably has a higher, like, even if it's by a small amount, a higher value to the raid as specifically a Hunter. Things just may become more natural, or it's always a mechanic doing, like, turtle class, you know? Like, when you are, like, the secondary raid leader person, having something you're familiar with, or more familiar with, regardless of damage, is always, like, super important. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a shitty situation, but also it just makes no sense that Hunters don't have some utility. They literally have 0 utility. The only utility they had with Binding Shot just got turned into a fucking stun. Like it makes like they actually like compare them to other range with utility. It makes no sense.
I mean, I don't know. Hunter really fell off this expansion. Like I think Hunter was still decent on Razagev, but I can say if we would have had not the nerf on Razagev, right, like what we said earlier with the damage push, I mean, he would have been gone, yeah. He was the next on the chopping block, basically, on Razagev already, because, I mean, he was just there because he had good gear, and, I mean, yeah. And he was playing good, and, I mean, yeah, it was just nice to have in the raid, I guess. But I don't know, I mean, we did also try Roger Tank, yeah, that was also an error.
Oh, Roger Tank.
That was in Season 4, the Shadowlands, like the... encrypted or whatever, where you had the bubbles in the raid. I forgot how it was called. Fated. Now I have the name. And we wanted to reroll Roger to tank for this expansion. Yeah, that did not work out.
Dude, why do you think it is that? Well, actually, I don't know if you agree with this. Do you think recruiting good healers is harder than like any other role or position by far? Like actual banger healers. Like I'm talking like best players on your roster, insane players, those kind of people.
Actually, I think tanks are probably harder, but tanks is also not that. Like you don't replace tanks that often, so I think we can take them out of the equation. But so like if you replace a tank, it's like a big step. But I think it is kind of true. Like because of the DPSer, it's really easy to have a competition. I mean, that's how I see it. I guess that's my opinion. Like you invite a DPSer that you know is probably pretty decent. You put him into the raid. He has like 16 or whatever, 14 other people to compete with, and he like will kind of get the competitive spirit, and you will see kind of fast if he's good or bad. But recruiting a banger healer is like, what are you gonna do? I mean, you can recruit him and put him into some farm raids, but you will also never know, like a tank, if he will actually be good on progress or if he will just be fucking blasting the HPS with no reason. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it's also just because it's like, as a DPS, there's so much more than the amount of damage you do, but really at the highest level, the damage you do is like super important, and there are people who are way better than that than others. Like almost like an infinite skill cap of DPSing in this game. You will always find someone slightly better than someone else. But so when you're recruiting throughout guild ranks, DPS kind of just get recognized because of that. Like there's so much more to it, but at the end of the day, you can look and see how much damage someone does, and you're like, okay, that person might be a good addition to our guild, and it's obvious. In healers, it just isn't, right? I mean, if you go and scroll down healing ranks, you are looking at players who might even be good, but they are healing with 3 other people who are fucking dog shit, and they get exactly. There's only a certain amount of healing to do, and there could be a better player who's playing with better healers. There could also be a better player who's optimally DPSing more, but you're not incentivized to do that because healing ranks is all people look at. So like you're teaching yourself to play the game the wrong way, and it's also like impossible to find talent. I don't know what it is, but I could tell you that if I needed to recruit a player from all the places you could possibly recruit them from to DPS in our guild, I could maybe go through like 10 or 15 of them, which is a lot, and then you'd find someone who's probably good enough to raid in like the top 20 in your guild. They'd be serviceable. Bro, I don't know how many healers you would have to go through to find like a banger, like a really good, really, there's only a handful of them probably in the world that are like that good. Those players, they're not, I guess they're not being grown or they're not coming from anywhere, and they're impossibly hard to find. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that. It's also like because we were looking into healers, right? Because we had a healers leave.
Did you guys have
we're like,
healers
man,
leave? Who left?
Not leave, but we have a replacement for Sarkareth.
Oh, Scars is real good.
And yeah, and then I mean the main thing is that obviously we need someone to do Ryzen's job, because like Ryzen doesn't, we want Ryzen to play basically, yeah, and we don't want him to be outside like healing thing, and I don't know, it's a little bit weird. We just need healers, I guess, yeah. And finding healers is like, I mean, I'm thankfully not involved. I'm only doing DPS and tank recruitment, but man, the healer recruitment, what I have heard, is impossible. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, to be honest. Yeah, maybe we just need to reroll the DPS to heal, and that will work out.
I mean, that is exactly the thought process I had last year. I was like, Zevi could play any DPS for us. He would be one of our best DPS. But like, I know he's a good healer, and what is the chance? Like, basically, if you're putting him into your raid comp as a healer, which is like insanely important, like healing is unbelievably important. I don't know how to put it. Like, I don't even know if we know what healing is possible yet. Like, if you had 4 healers as good as your best healer in either of our guilds, like what your raid frames would look differently like in progression. You just don't even know what's you're capable of, because you just never, that's impossible to see. But like, I was just saying, like, I mean, if Zevi is this good at healing and you know it's impossible to find healers, he may not be his favorite thing to do, but I mean, you just kind of have to do it, right? Like, if you're trying to play at this level, it's just infinitely harder to find a healer, really. So yeah, I think it's kind of like tanking too. Like, I feel like tanking is another one of those roles where, even though both of our guilds just did this, it always makes way more sense to just have someone you know and can trust to do it than like take a risk on someone new, you know?
Yeah, I think we both got lucky with the tank situation.
Well,
It was just not worked out at all, basically, and it would have been like absolute disaster for the tier. But I don't know, yeah. I mean, with healing, we had this was long ago, but we had Servo reroll Holy Paladin at one point. Yeah, we were this desperate. We were like, guys, we need to have a new healer, and Servo was like, guys, it's fine. And it was too funny. He was just flaming everyone who stood in shit, yeah. As a healer, he was like, I'm not healing you anymore, yeah. It was the best content ever, yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
But this was before Ashara, so how long ago? 5 years, 6 years maybe at this point?
Wait, was Ashara 5? Ashara wasn't 5 years ago, was it?
Or 4 years? I don't know. Let me see.
It's got to be like 3 years ago.
No way.
Right?
I swear, I aged so much in the last years then.
No, it was 4 years ago. It's 2019, so.
August 2019, yeah. Okay.
So almost exactly 4 years ago, or.
Yeah, 4 years ago, yeah.
Wow. Wait, how long have we been doing the race? Like since Uldir?
Uldir, yeah.
4.5 years.
I guess 4.5 years, yeah.
I always wonder in some like alternate reality if you could take either one of our guild's versions of them from the past and have them compete today, where they would place and how they would look compared to the current versions of our guilds. I'm pretty sure they would get fucking smoked.
Holy, they would get absolutely destroyed, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially for like a couple of years there, it just felt like every single tier, both guilds got so much better that even they would both demolish both of the previous guilds in the last raid, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Sepulture was one of the highs for both guilds. Like, I felt like the prep that you guys did and we guys did was so insanely long and so much as well. And then we come to these bosses and we like over-prepared so much and we beat them. But it was so hard. I don't know. It was
in Sepulcher specifically.
Yeah, in Sepulcher specifically. I mean, I don't know how much prep you did, but holy moly! I remember I started Sepulcher prep during a great push, I think that was the the how's it called, the plague borer exit. I was only like 6 manning that one.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, we might get banned for plague borer, but it's fine. Yeah. And I was preparing for the race during that, and then we played an MDI, and then we played the race, and everything was going on at the same time, and I felt like I was preparing for like half a year for Sepultura. That was some crazy tier.
Oh yeah, that raid had just such highs and lows for us, because like I feel like doing, and obviously probably part of it is tied to like winning at the time and doing well, but like I just loved problem solving Anduin and Holandris. Even Rygalon and Lords of Dread actually was just jailer. I was just fucking, we were so over that fight. We were like, it was, and I'm sure that helped you guys too. You guys were probably like, okay, they're definitely fucking over this fight. But yeah, I was, it was fucking, man.
I mean, I can say, like, of course, I mean, how it ended was not the best, but man, Sepultura was probably that was actually a true race toward first, like, raid. There was so impossible hard bosses for us, basically. Like, needing hundreds and hundreds of pulls on, like, middle-ish bosses, let's say, in the raid. And they were, like, crack bosses, like Hadlondrus, Anduin. I mean, Lords were also cracked, I guess, but in a different way. And Rygalon was probably one of the best bosses I played in like the last years.
Rygalon's really underrated, is actually, and also I think it's insane that those bosses were killed within a couple hours of each other, and we 5 healed it and you 4 healed it. So like both of those things were extreme displays of 4 healing that boss was absolutely fucking disgusting. Like that, even making that possible was insane. And
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so like I Rygalon should go down. I think unfortunately like viewership like seemed to like start to go down at that point because it was already going on for so long.
I mean, it was like 3 weeks in I think at this point.
Yeah, that was it was
no,
weird.
But this was
good.
Like this was the prime, I think, for like my enjoyment on progressing bosses. It was a little bit too many of the very hard bosses, right? But those bosses were cracked, and for the public, they were not okay. Like those were some very, very specific and hard bosses. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Sepulchre is probably a lot of the reason why this raid was the way it was. I think you guys got robbed on Lihivum. Like I think you would have loved figuring out Lihivum. Like that's just one of those fights where I feel like we had an absolute blast and we had to come up with so much different shit, some degen shit, some like split pushing, killing 2 at the same time, like problem solving, and that's just the exact kind of boss where you get to it, we've already killed it, and it's just like, okay, just fucking do that, and then it just dies, right? And it's like, you don't even appreciate it.
Man, we had so many things for Lihivum prepared. We had like for this, like this different star mechanic, right, where you just went into the groups at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like with pairs. We had like a WeakAuras prepared that have you, it's kind of like the Archimon WeakAuras, where you get a spot assigned around the boss, and it is a opposing spot to the other person's color, basically, and you just had to move to the spot, drop your thing, and then move in the middle, basically, like just meet in the middle, and then you meet the other color person, basically.
Oh, Jesus.
And we tested it, and it was super cool, and it was super insane. But I mean, obviously, that went to the boss. Oh, we saw you guys, basically. I mean, we didn't go there first. And we were like, I guess we do that as well, yeah? And that's it, so.
Oh, we took a long time with that. We started out with some WeakAuras like that, and then they weren't working, and it's like, yeah, we can just fucking YOLO this, and then we couldn't YOLO it. And then we were like, okay, well, let's have like 3 people stack with multiple groups. Okay, that's too many groups. And then we were like, okay, can we live from 100% health if 5 people just stack on top of each other and we make 4 groups? It's like, okay, yeah, let's find a way to be alive for that every time and just fucking fuck WeakAuras, fuck everything else, just do that. Actually, I wonder how you guys feel about WeakAuras, because like you guys are like the WeakAura guild. Like you guys are definitely better at WeakAuras than us. I think you, especially in the previous years, a little closer now. But like,
no,
go ahead.
I still think that you guys are better at like improvising things, and we're better at making the WeakAuras.
No, I completely agree.
Things work. Yeah, I think that's like. I mean, it has definitely gotten closer. I mean, of course, we're like always trying to improve, but I think that's like the general sentiment when I watch progress of both guilds. Yeah.
Yeah, like if I like the end of Skarn, for example, like that going to the wall was not planned, and everything under 20% was the first time we saw it. But we had like 4 insane plays of like getting rid of bombs under the raid at like the exact right time, and none of that was communicated. But like our players like to think like that. But you guys are the kind of guild that if we didn't kill at that pull, you would have went into the next pull having all of it as automated as possible to have that last part of the fight be more consistent. So it's like we did that more in the past. I would say we were definitely doing a lot more of what you guys do with that, because it's, even though it kind of sucks to do, even if you could YOLO something and it's successful 95% of the time, if you can have a weak aura do it and it's 100, then or 99, then it's just more efficient time wise. And it sucks because like it takes away from playing the game, but it's just you're competing, right? Like doing whatever is it took us a long time to realize that. Like we have a huge aversion to weak auras. Like we do not fuck with them at all. But it's just what you have to do.
I mean, yeah. I personally don't like a lot of the. I'm a little bit the YOLO type, let's say, I guess. Like I like to assign things. I think that's like our mentality as well in the guild. But often there are some things where I'm like, we can just YOLO it a little bit, yeah. A good example, I guess, was in this raid was Nefarian Hearts in the first phase, like in the first few rooms. It was always like how many people go over, of course, that was always set. But then like when going over, the people that went over were always like a little bit YOLO late. One guy goes left, right, depending on where the other guy stands and whatnot, right? And I'm like super fine with that person. Like if I would be a range player, I would like that. But then there was like a big discussion about it, like 70 pulls in, because like some people thought we assigned it, some didn't, and then it was like, oh no, do we assign it now or do we YOLO it now? And I don't know, it was like kind of split 50-50 as well, yeah. What is kind of the best idea here? And then we did end up assigning it. What I think was probably the right play, but we should have done it earlier, right? But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, speaking of WeakAuras, actually, did you notice when I was talking to Morgan and the Michael, the fight designer guy, the lead encounter designer, they talked about Neltharion, which was like, obviously this is supposed to be the boss with private auras. This is we're not gonna let you guys assign stuff anymore. And then that's the fight that's like the biggest meme ever. It's like these list weak auras and maps and all this shit. Like, what was your takeaway from that? And then also, what did you think about his answer when I asked him about that? And he was like, yeah, we're okay with the list weak aura thing. We like that. And I like talked to my raid about that, and they do not like the list. Like, it's not a fan. Right, I'd rather have it be YOLO'd or have it be a normal weak aura, not like a fucking 2013 power aura list weak aura thing, you know?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they definitely feel like they gave me the vibe that they're like, this is kind of what we want, yeah? Like some scuffed weak aura for these mechanics, if it's like doable, I guess. And that's it, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think this map, like, you know, that map where to go and that it like lights up and shows you the position in the room and stuff, I think they didn't really catch that, maybe. I don't really know if you asked about it specifically.
I think
that one,
I didn't ask. They just, I think they said very off the cuff at the end. He had forgot to bring it up, and then he goes, "Oh yeah, the map weak auras. We want to nuke those." He said something like that.
Yeah, because they really need to go. This is not. I really hope those are fixed before the next raid, because that will definitely. I think for us, well, for both of our guilds, I think it's whatever, because we have the people making these maps, and it will all be good in the hood. Yeah, we will have these ready and we will use them. But if the normal raider, like mythic raider thing, will be import this package of 200 pictures, please, and the shared media.
Oh yeah.
and then you get a picture of every boss. Oh, move here next. Look at this. This is not a good way to go to, I think, for raiding. Yeah? So those should be gone. But the raid that they get, they definitely gave off the vibe that they're like, oh, we like this map idea, I guess. The list idea.
Yeah, basically.
And I dislike it a lot. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I also think they picked the wrong mechanic to do that on. Like the idea of doing 25-yard volcanic hearts and you actually had to YOLO it, like no macro weak aura, no list, no map, nothing. Just fucking, you get it and you figure it out. Bro, that boss would have been fucking impossible. Like that, we would have wiped that boss 300 times for sure.
Like every time we go phase 2, someone would have died. Yeah, when you just spread in the room, 5 positions only, someone would have died 100%. Yeah, every time. I don't know.
Yeah,
and even now people know where to go and they still die. Yeah, it's not like some like solved mechanic. You know, I don't know how you guys' farm rates are, but man, there are some times where people just go wrong or look wrong in the list as well. They just count 1, 2, forget about 3 or 4, and then 2 people die, and you're like, that's nice.
Dude, when was the last time you guys did Magmarax?
Probably like 2 months ago, maybe. Like, when was the race over? I mean, we did once more after the race, I think, or twice, yeah. Then since then we didn't do it again.
Dude, that boss somehow is like the hardest farm boss by far. We do it like probably once every other week because a buyer will buy a full 9 out of 9. So we just add the bosses.
Oh, Sol is right. We had a boost as well 2 weeks ago. Yeah, well, continue, sorry.
Oh yeah, so same idea. We did it and it's like, bro, this boss is like, it's so easy, but it's randomly so hard. I don't get it. Like it actually like I feel if we're going to wipe to any boss on the raid, if we were to do all 9 of them, I would say we are twice as likely to wipe on Magma Rex in any other fight. I don't get it.
I agree. I also don't, but also then on the other hand, you do this boss, and I'm like thinking in my head, why are we not just 6 healing this boss? I'm a little bit stupid. But then there's no one in the raid who wants to off heal or whatever, and then you just end up like 4 or 5 healing it, and then you just wipe, and you're like, what's happening? Yeah.
What do you feel about under healing and farm? I've been thinking about this a lot. Like when you practice for 6 months, which is basically what farm is, even though it's easy as fuck, you kind of build habits for progression, and you can kind of have it be hard to bounce back right into progression level of thinking when you don't think about what cooldowns you're pressing for a while. I've always wondered if like under healing farm or finding a way to make farm harder, even though it's less time efficient and you're fighting burnout and all that stuff. But like, I wonder if under healing farm and making healers actually think and try is something that helps them all year round rather than being actually AFK playing the game for 6 months.
Oh, I mean, I would love to make farm harder with under healing, but I think it is, I mean, what you said, the main issue is that farm becomes less efficient, I guess, and less fun as well,
Yeah.
I guess. If you wipe, like, the moment you wipe once and farm rate, the mood is on a trend downwards roller coaster, yeah, real fast, especially if it's like some stupid wipe, yeah. I don't know. But I definitely think it's a good idea. Like, I do like under healing, let's say, to learn, because DPSs need to press buttons good, the healers need to plan cooldowns properly, I guess, more or less. Need to press them at the right time and whatnot, but yeah, I don't know. Can also unequip some gear, but that is not good, yeah.
That's where it goes too far. Like imagine
Man.
imagine your raiders and they're like burnt out of doing all these different splits, and then you like unironically show up to one raid and tell them to take gear off. Oh my god. They'd
like,
be
"Hey,
fucking so mad.
Guys, we play without the 2 rings this raid, yeah. 2000 haste gone off everyone, yeah. They would just leave the raid, I think, yeah.
Wait, here comes the Unat story. What the fuck did y'all do on Unat?
Oh yeah, okay. So I can say, like on Unat practice, like for race, we went on heroic Unat, and to simulate the mythic damage intake and whatnot, we slowly unequipped gear pieces one by one, yeah.
That's smart.
And at one point, Scribe told me, "Bro, Meeres, do you need gear as tank?" Yeah? And then I legit started unequipping, and I tanked this boss basically naked, yeah. I had my foresight equipped, my Heart of Azeroth, and a weapon, yeah. And that was it. And this boss was swinging me for like 70% of my HP. I was like, "Bro, Scribe, no boss will ever do this damage to me." And he's like, "It's okay, yeah." And the DPSers, they were left with, I think, foresight, the weapon, and trinkets, yeah. Everything else was gone. And then we also started unequipping trinkets at one point. Oh my god, yeah. I can say that was we did that for like, I don't know how many hours. That was an interesting experience.
Oh, that kind of reminds me of like damage testing. Like both of our guilds, for people who are listening and maybe don't know this, we spend a lot of time off stream on PTR simulating real raid situations for damage, and then also just trying to get a good, like Sims can only do so much, like trying to get a good idea of where classes are in the current moment to help you prepare for raids. But it's like kind of cursed. Like for a while it was like the dummies were like calculating things a little weird, and then like now we have this like Siege of Orgrimmar shit where like you can go into this Siege of Orgrimmar dummy and you can at least not have another guild log your runs. Like you would use turnips, but they take extra crit or something like that, so it's not accurate like in someone's garrison. Like how do you do your raiders, like when you are like, "Yo, we're damage testing today," are your raiders like, "Oh, fucking not again," or whatever?
Well, I actually don't know, yeah. I think the main response is always, "Yo, we're damage testing," and then the first chatting will be, "Yo, can we not wait till next Tuesday? There's surely changes, yeah."
Oh yeah.
And then it's sometimes like, we do next week. Yeah, we wait for the changes. And then the changes come, and then like half the classes stop working, and then people are like, man, I don't want to test. And then other people's classes work, and they're like, holy fuck, let's pump, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I
and
think
evokers and like evokers are like down tremendous because the target dummy's at 0%, and they're like, "No, I promise we're better than this."
Yeah,
And, like,
exactly. And the evokers are like, look, guys, I do a lot more damage when the target is high HP. And then you have like some cooked takes from some people, yeah. Well, there was one quality quote, I don't know from what testing it was, yeah. But it was Narcolis on Red Paladin, like always. The dummy goes into execute. Of course, the boss is not an execute yet in the dummy test, yeah. but Nako is still throwing the hammer of wrath on cooldown, basically, yeah.
Dude.
And then afterwards, we're like, man, red is looking pretty popping, yeah. And he's like, yeah, maybe I pressed a few executes too early. We go into the lock, 10 seconds into the pull, hammer of wrath on cooldown, yeah. And he's like, I pressed a little bit too early. Okay.
Dude, that's
I
like
swear, yeah.
okay, when Riku first joined this guild, I think it was Sylvanas, it was a long time ago. He did like our first damage testing, and we were like, okay, like, you know, let's do like 5.5 minutes, and the boss, it'll be at 0 the whole time, but start executing at 3:45 or whatever is the simulated like execute
Yeah, I mean,
time.
whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like we looked and like he was just owning, and we're like, holy fuck, Warrior seems like a lot better right now. And we look at the logs, and he just completely disregarded that, and he executed from the first possible fucking second of the pull, and then just actually full executed the whole time.
I mean, at least you got the execute lock out of it, yeah. No, I swear. I mean, the DPS test. And that's probably one of the things that are benefit of being a tank. I really don't care about the DPS test, yeah.
Yeah.
Like half the tank classes, I'm like there, and then the boss is like, oh, let's see how the tank classes are performing. I'm like, okay, sure. Let me just go there. I'm not getting hit on like any of the tanks. Completely pointless. Guardian Druid looking crazy on the dummy, not pressing a single Iron Fur. I'm like, holy shit, I guess we need to play Guardian Druid the next year, yeah. I don't know. It's always the biggest meme.
I forget, there was one raid that was like super weird for testing. I don't remember exactly why, but like it was just you were like trying to you had to like try so hard, and it was so weird to get the right results. It was years ago. I don't remember what it actually, dude, when we first started doing this, we didn't do that at all. Like, I don't remember exactly I don't even remember when we started doing this. It must have been even within the last couple years. Like, I don't remember doing it in Old Year, BOD, but we were also new as fuck then.
Yeah, I don't think we did it in. Did we do it in Uldi or BOD? Maybe I'm a little bit cooked, but I don't remember it. I mean, this has definitely become something that is not fun, I must say. Like, DPS tests are so weird. And then you try to test things as well. You go in Plus, you get like differently scaled by Blizzard, and half the things are bugged, and you're like, man, getting info is like the hardest thing in the universe often.
Dude, what do you think is like like people talk about race rolled first burnout. What do you think is the worst thing? Like, what is the, like Flex mentioned it in chat earlier. Maybe it's how fast the raids come out now. They're like months faster than they were last expansion, for example. Like what that specifically doesn't bother me. I would like to do these all the time, but like what do you think is like the biggest barrier to entry? Like, what is the most annoying thing that a race world first raider has to do that you wish they wouldn't?
It's probably the prep to the raid, like not the farm raid. I think it's the prep before the actual raid, probably. But that is kind of combined with that the raids come out.
What do you mean
faster,
by that?
I
Like
guess.
PTR, or
Like,
do you mean like?
Yeah, like PTR, yeah. Like, I think just, if you would just say, just play the farm raids 2 times per week or something, I mean, to be honest, most people raid like once or twice per week as well. It's not like some crazy stuff, I guess. But then you go PTR, and obviously in PTR, there's like so many things that need to be done. Yeah, you have raid testing twice, so you basically raid 4 times per week when raid testing cycle is going on. And then you need to prep your classes, like, I mean, I guess it's a lot of, I'm not really sure you guys do it, but like we're asking a lot of the people, like we're not asking of a lot during farm, let's say, I guess. But during PTR, we ask a lot to do things, I mean, because it's a relevant thing, right? And maybe that's burning people out. And before the change to like loot and whatnot, it was definitely, I think, playing the same character a lot of times. I think that definitely,
Yeah, I think that's.
I'm not sure if that, like, I don't think that contributed to burnout maybe, but that contributed to not finding new players.
Bro,
I
it
think.
has to contribute to burnout. Like,
I mean, I guess as well.
I think
yeah.
playing 8 characters is a lot in general, but I think if most players had, like, let's say they're a DK main, and then the rest of their alts were actually other classes that they find fun playing, like most people who play at this level find it interesting to like go to another class and be challenged in a slightly different way, and like have your rotation be different, and you're also gearing up a new class and another class is getting stronger. You don't give a fuck if like you're a DK main and your 4th DK just got an upgrade. If it's not better than your main, then what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean anything to you. And I think that more than anything, I have seen a lot of players lose interest because they really want to play a bunch of alts, but there's just not a ton of time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have this time. A lot of like, we gave I gave the thing and was like, people can play whatever they like in this farm rate, basically. And I mean, some people opted out not to do that, of course, right? But some people are just playing whatever they like, I guess, yeah. And maybe it's helping, I'm not sure.
I mean, if you burn out and lose your best players, then any amount of gear you have doesn't matter, right?
Well, I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, if someone wants to take a break and says, yo, I'm getting burned out from raiding, I mean, of course they can take a break. Yeah, it's not like I'm forcing the people to
Of
raid,
course.
let's say, I guess, yeah.
But I mean, even then, let's just say someone like some multi-classer in your guild, someone who frequently is in the raid every single raid, but is always playing a different class. Like, let's say you want them to have like 4 to 5 like buckets of that class, mirrors of that class. You could gear those in a month before the raid, like easily. So like the time you spend in the farm period in between can be a bit more relaxed, right? Because you could be just gearing up a bunch of things for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the beauty of this patch, right? Like, but as I said before, on the previous patch, right? I mean, it was just not possible, right? You wanted icon on your characters and like Grief Torch, I guess, and so many other things that were like interesting before we got to know the new upgrade system, but obviously kind of made so many of these things actually relevant. Yeah, I mean, that was kind of what disheartened me a lot after the race, where I was just sitting down. I was having a look at my spreadsheet. I see 350 geared characters from the 18 billion raids that I did every week. And none of them were relevant, let's say, loot-wise, because the new upgrade system just like you replaced every single item basically instantly. So.
And now that's a good thing.
I don't know.
You know, you have.
Yeah, now it's good. Yeah, now it's good.
Yeah, I've always wondered how that would play out. I do still fear they're gonna nerf it a little bit. Not like fear, but I guess like because I think the rest of the game was gonna lose their mind if they nerf it at all. Even though I still feel like people would enjoy it even if it was a little slower. Like if they capped the crest a little lower than 10 or whatever. But
I mean, I think probably for the first weeks they might just do half the crest or something, yeah, just to slow it down a little bit. I don't know. Like even if you do half the crest over the whole period, I think you would still end up that people have like the cap, let's say, I guess, of crest they can use like 3-4 weeks into the patch, I think. Yeah.
instead of 2. Yeah.
Instead of 2, exactly.
Which is still
yeah.
twice
And,
as fast as before.
like, and before, I think I remember, I mean, also, like for the overall player base, if you're talking that the catalyst is not out the first day of the patch, by the way, is still a joke, I think.
Oh,
like,
100%. Makes no sense.
That makes absolutely no sense that you need to go and like wait, like let's say the M+ players, they have 441 in every single slot if they try hard, I guess, after week 2, maybe unlucky, I don't know. And then they need to wait another 8 weeks to get their 4-piece if they actually truly just are unlucky and don't raid at all or whatever, right? I don't get that. Why the catalyst is not out. It would help the race to like it would basically have everyone. Like I have not actually seen an argument for like why would it not be out? Like what is the reason? I guess.
What do you feel about like the turning the stream off thing?
Oh.
Because we've now both done this. Like we've always done the like maybe we'll do the last hour or 2 of off stream. Like we've done that for years, and then you guys did I think it was like a day or so on Denathrius.
Yeah, it was the Tuesday, like basically when
we were resetting or reclearing.
You were getting the reset, and we were basically gonna progress the boss while you can reclear and stuff. So yeah.
And then this raid we played for like 3 hours after dinner, I think, and we didn't stream any of that. But it was like we basically went to dinner. It like clicked for me, talked to Zevi about it, and we're like, okay, this is how the boss is dying, and this is what we're doing. And then it was like, okay, if we stream this and have a good pull and then go to bed, like, I don't know, that could be. I mean,
objectively, it's grief to stream, like, of course, yeah.
Yeah, but obviously, I don't know if you guys are in a position to like, honestly, I don't think we were allowed to do that. Like, I think whoever asked that question, whether we could do that. Because obviously, a lot of the chatters know, like, the only reason any of us make any money whatsoever, like even $1, is from these sponsors during these races. That's where all the advertising is, where all the money comes from. So those people probably want to get content out of the race, and they probably don't want your stream to be off, right? So it's always a weird thing, both for them and Denathrius and us last raid, to, like, do that. You know, you got to get approved for that. There's a lot of money. These are hundreds of thousands of dollar production events, right? Yeah, I don't know. I got wind that we could probably do that, and I was like, I mean, bro, if we can get away with turning our streams off, we're gonna do that without even thinking about it. Like, there's no question. And I found out that the next morning that did not go through the proper channels, and we should not have been allowed to probably do that. We basically just like we got approval real quick and turned that shit off and told our broadcast team about it, and then we were fucking out. So yeah, we didn't end up getting trouble from it because I think the general perspective from those people was like, well, winning's more important, and also winning brings viewership, and that maybe had something to do with you winning, so it's good. But I don't know. Just tell me what you think about either guild potentially doing that at any point.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, I have my take on this, but I think the main issue is that we've both done it now. Is kind of opening the gate. That is like, you know, we had like the thing where you guys didn't stream your, what was it, in Casanafia, the Council of Bloodkill, right? Was all streamed after dinner or whatever for you guys. I don't, to be honest, I have no clue what went down there. Yeah, like how long you didn't play it or whatever. And then we turned off for the Nafros. And then afterwards we got like kind of backlash, I guess I would say. Or it was like, obviously it was objectively the exact same thing as what you guys did now, right? It was
and
like,
we got praised for it. Yeah.
It was like, it was exactly the same thing. We would have hinted our progress by showing you guys what happened on the Nafros, but we lost. So it was like, holy shit, you guys
even before you
and
lost though. The community was already very against it. They were like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? I don't know if you guys saw that with your community because you're only paying attention during the race, but like they were already mad as fuck before anyone won or lost. They were like, what the fuck is this? I want my content, you know? And then this raid, I do that. I like have to give a statement, and I'm preparing to get fucking annihilated for this because I know how this went last time. But I was just like, look, guys, I know you're gonna be mad. Winning's the only thing that matters, whatever. I was expecting to be on fucking Reddit. Fucking everyone's mad at me. And then I looked the next day, and even before we won, it was like such a good choice. Just, I mean, of course you would do that. It's a good decision. And I'm just like, bro, this is so bullshit. They got like annihilated for this.
Yeah, I don't really get that. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think objective was the exact same thing. But, I mean, your way was like more stylish, I guess. I'm not sure exactly why people like that more, I guess.
It was less time. Like if we didn't stream the entire day, then maybe it would have been a lot more negative. But it did seem weird that the response to it was entirely public. But I don't know. I mean, let me know what you think. Like we have this raid. We woke up multiple days and learned stuff from what you guys were doing as well as you all did. And then one night we robbed you all of doing that. What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a really big hit. I think it was a really, really big hit, and I think it would have been the same for you guys if, for example, we progressed Nefaron in the evening when you guys went to bed and weren't on Nefaron, or you basically pulled him like a few times rather than you went to bed. I think it was the case.
Yeah.
And technically we should have also turned off, let's say. So you wake up and you basically have no info on Nefaron, and we're like basically done with the progress more or less on the boss, right? In our evening and whatnot. I think the main issue I have with it is that like we both did it in a way, I guess now. And objectively for winning, it's always better. But it's kind of against what the spirit is, let's say, I guess, that we're like streaming everything.
It's just a fucking global release problem. Because not having global release turns this thing into where the most efficient time of the entire race by far for both teams is when you wake up, the other team passes you. Like, you could listen to me when we went to bed on Skarn, because we killed Skarn and Magmarax, and we're like, okay, we're going to wake up and they're going to be on Neltharion. That's good. Let's wake up and ready to learn what they learn. And, like, there's no depression there at all that you're going to pass us. It's just like, this is actually good for us, right? It's like, that is literally how that works. And it's like this weird cringe thing where you are super incentivized, especially when your opponent is sleeping, to not do that. If we're both playing and streaming at the same time, you would never do this because it wouldn't matter. Yeah. If you're ahead of the team when you're both playing and you're both going to sleep at the same time, who cares, right? But it's like, oh, I'm not going to this team's sleeping right now. I'm not going to allow them to wake up to a exact boss strat on a silver platter. And Sarkareth was just exactly that kind of fight, right? It was just a strat fight. So, like, you know, you just can't do that. I doubt we would have done that if it would have been really a lot of other kinds of bosses because there's a very clear A to B. But yeah, on that fight, it just seemed like it would have been insane for us to do that. But now the bag is kind of open, right? Like, what happens when you guys are on an end boss on some raid? And I don't know, here's a scenario. What if your sponsors don't let you turn your stream off, right? I don't know how exactly what your all's relationship is with your sponsors, but obviously I just explained to all these people that they are inclined to have us definitely not do that. So, what if one guild can do it and the other can't, and then that's bullshit. And then also, do we really want to be like, jab stepping each other and trying to play chicken to see who's going to turn their stream off on an end boss first? I mean, it could be like really cringe, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the main thing, right? What I dislike about the whole situation, I guess. Yeah, there's like it is a bit the aftertaste that you guys had from the Nafros, right? And we have the same one now, but we're like, man, like in hindsight, we should have turned off the stream for Nefaron, I guess. Let's say, like just like looking at this rate, I guess.
Well, we
no,
didn't
but I don't
lose
know,
under
yeah.
Nathrius, but if we would have lost and
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah.
well, that was weird because it was like kind of the whole boss. Like I'm trying to wrap my head around it now because we killed Stone Legion at the same time, and you guys were like, I don't think you were ever really behind us there. It was more like we just progressed the full boss on our own, and you progressed the full boss on our own, and then like the reset shit, obviously. But that like that.
I mean, again though, it is kind of comes down to global release. If there would have been a global release, let's say, or like also a global reset in this case, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have mattered at all, of course, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, either there needs to be an agreement, I think, in my opinion, that we are allowed to do it. Like, I don't know. I guess I have no clue about our sponsor situation. By the way, I'm not handling any of this situation, so I don't know. But I mean, it's obviously not advised, I assume, because it's where all the money is laying, right? No, I don't know. I mean, it's really weird, yeah. Either there should be an agreement where we all stream all the time and there's no one turning it, or it is just the Wild West, yeah. I would not prefer the Wild West, yeah. And
yeah, a lot of viewers bring up like, why don't the guilds get together and just agree on a start time and do their own thing? That has a lot of like implications to it. I don't know. Like there is one like positive side of that, and that is, obviously financially the race being successful long term is like benefits everybody involved in our two guilds. So like if that increases viewership or stuff like that, it works. But then it's like you're waking up, or are we waking up at 1 a.m.? Like that would certainly affect our performance. Do you find a time where both teams can start at a good time? And then I don't know. It just seems like a problem that shouldn't be ours to solve. And then also, I think the global release alone just causes like when someone comes in second at the MDI, it sucks, but there's not like crazy animosity, The like in the world first race, it's like, bro, there's so much bad shit, and I still feel like almost all of it, first of all, is caused by our very parasocial fans on both sides saying all kinds of weird shit, and with us not really communicating with each other, that's all you really kind of see from the other side. But also that the global release, I think, causes almost all of that. Like we're definitely fucking over, in our opinion, doing really, really well and winning and playing better, and then having those accomplishments diminished by anyone. That obviously feels like shit. And then also you guys on the first Tuesday of the raid fucking watching us progress, and you're just sitting there like, what are we doing? We're just like sitting here watching the content we want to do be done. You immediately, half the bosses in the raid, you don't even get a chance to problem solve them, right, before they're done. That sucks. There's all the weird things for both of us where it's like, okay, we're 3 days into the raid, right? So we're at the point where 100% of races involve both teams waking up and just yoinking what the other team did. That's cringe, That's not like creative. It's just, I don't know. But I don't know if it's ever going to happen, man, and that worries me, so...
Yeah, I mean, I do think there would be like, I mean, okay, technically this agreement, I guess, could happen between us two, I guess, yeah. And be like, yo, you guys start 10 hours later, and then you guys take the reset, but maybe you don't raid with the reset gear or something. I mean, it has a lot of issues. I think it would basically cut down the progress week to like 5.5 days or maybe 6 days or something in total, right? And then you need to like AFK 12 hours or whatever per week just to like deep. I mean, that sounds like absolute horrible gameplay in terms of like the management and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, I would love to have a global release. Yeah. I'm definitely for global release. All the other game modes that Blizzard has managed. Yeah. Just WoW doesn't manage. And I mean, I read a lot of takes of it as well, right? I think one of the biggest ones is probably having a realm that you can play on that has a global release. Or maybe also just any release thing on EU, like the schedule, I guess. I don't know how it's called, the maintenance, no, I found the name. So we could just, for example, play on that realm, and we would have the same reset at you guys, and we would just, I mean, whatever, we just play at 7
Actually,
a.m. to,
so
whatever, yeah.
usually private server stuff, anytime someone mentions private realms, I'm immediately just like, this is just so not going to work. But if there's a world where there's a realm specifically for the race, there could be fucking 5 guilds on it. And you just port over your character after Heroic Week. The reset happens at a certain time. And then like after the race is over, you can port those characters back to live. And that has the release thing. Because the thing is like Blizzard does have a lot to gain from the race being popular. So like that's
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's like kind of a way to look at it for them to consider it. But any like organic agreement way around it just sounds so cringe. Like remember people were talking about like, oh, you guys don't want to farm a lot? Why don't you and Echo make an agreement to not level a bunch of characters? Okay, so what do I do when like THD is gonna make 10 of them anyway? THD made 8 warlocks before we ever required that at all. He's just fucking weird, you know? Like, do I have to police my raiders into like making them not play the game because we signed some contract to reduce burnout? Like, it's so inorganic. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, all of those things, like, I mean, there's also so many other things. It's not like only like that. Only the guilds are involved in the race world first, right? You have like I don't know how many hundreds of helpers and like other things that are obviously involved, and you can't just like dip on them, let's say. And then like other people with the argument, yeah, Echo should just come to NA. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the biggest meme ever. Yeah,
that's anyone who unironically thinks that's an option. So you would get absolutely bodied for getting helpers in your raids. You would cost significantly more gold. We would now be competing directly against each other with gold for buyers. That would be like another pieces raising the prices Armageddon from a few years ago. I mean, are you guys going to raid? I'm assuming you would fly your entire guild to America, which would be insanely expensive to not have dogshit ping, which is more expensive than what you're doing now. Yeah, it's pretty much not an option. I mean, we did a race from EU, and that was pretty cursed. But it wasn't awful, but it was like pretty cursed. So like I'm pretty sure you'd have to find a way to come over here. And then also that's not even accounting for, you guys have people in your guild that like really care about their EU accounts a lot. And then that's not a thing anymore, you know?
I mean, yeah, I'm for example one of them as well. I mean, I would do it for the sake of the competition and the race for first or whatever, yeah, but I would never want to play on that realm and give away like 15 years of my account, let's say, I guess, right? I mean, the same way it goes for you guys. Just come to EU, yeah, I mean. Obviously, it's not going to happen, yeah.
Fuck that. Yeah, no way.
I don't know. I mean, I do think the global release is a thing that Blizzard could make it happen, I think, like, personally. I'm not exactly sure how they would make the times and whatnot, yeah, but, like, for example, having the reset on, like, 4 a.m. our time or whatever would be, like, evening your time, right? Like,
yeah.
Someone will always get cucked. I think that's the biggest issue at time zones in general. Yeah, I don't know.
I think there is another option, but it's hard to pull off. And that is that you do a race purely by time spent after your raid is released, which is what a lot of fans this time wanted. But obviously that alone is super bullshit for us. Oh, sorry, dog's barking. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You go to the same site. You're both raiding from the same facility, but you still start at the same times you start now. But it's a black site. No phones, no information, no like YouTube and Twitch from the other teams is not there, and everyone gets to watch both teams do the raid entirely based on their own information. And I mean, I don't know how the fuck anyone could ever do this. It would take like a ton of money and someone who loves the race a lot that is unaffiliated with both of our guilds, but that would be fucking hype.
I mean, that does sound cool, yeah. But the amount of leaks, like, then people will be like whispering on Battle.net, yo, I saw this, yeah. And then they will link you the whole rundown script of whatever the other team is doing or something. Yep. I mean, it sounds very cool. I like the idea. But
yeah, the Aster Y Oiler, that guy.
Yeah, we just need someone who gives a few millions here and there per race.
Just a few million.
So if you're watching the race right now and you have some millions to burn, maybe an oil plant in your backyard, you can hit us up, I think, yeah. The thing with the time, though, is like, I mean, I don't know, yeah. Like, of course, technically, we did win on time this race, right? Okay. But, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's like so obviously it's not how do you say, like that makes obviously absolutely no sense because you guys start earlier. We don't even progress half the bosses that you guys kill, and then like you guys play the bosses we copy, you guys copy, and then like oh we need to distract like take some time off because you copied us, we copied you guys.
Yeah, it gets
or, like,
super complicated later in the raid
I
because
don't
like
know,
early
yeah,
in the
like,
raid, it's like you're always going to kill like a mid-tier boss definitely faster, and it's actually probably pretty easy to calculate actually how much time you saved using like historical averages and stuff. But the end boss is like, how do you tell? It's like, oh well, what guild gained more time from the other guild on this boss, you know? Yeah, but see that win on time shit, that stuff was getting me good because like I saw after this raid, like I'm like, man, I thought we played really well. I look at some stats and I'm like, dude, we like slowed down our pulls, we were extremely efficient. We cleared this raid, you know, really fast. And then I have all these fucking fans in my DMs tweeting at me, telling me that like we didn't actually win. You guys got it later than us. People telling us we still got like a 16-hour advantage when it hasn't been like that and hasn't been over 10 in years. It's just, they just say things they don't understand. Dude, it is like, it is brutal. It actually like makes me not enjoy it. I would say a lot of the discourse around the release time difference and things like that makes me enjoy the race a lot less than I would because it's so hard to have like respect and good relationships with our competitors, like obviously you guys, because all you ever see is that, right? Like I know what like losing and feeling like. I mean, I'll be completely honest with you. Like when we lost Razageth, I felt like, and I said this on my stream that day, I was like, I felt like you guys played better than us on Razageth, but it feels so bad to lose that way because it feels like you didn't win, but it didn't feel like you lose. I don't really know how to explain that. I don't know if you felt that this raid, but like if you felt like anything close to that or anyone in your guild did, I promise you, I know what that feels like. And that fucking blows. So like if this is the first time it's ever actually happened within the time, or even if you thought it would have been different in the past, like Nathria, like that feeling fucking blows. And there's no way to like reconcile it. And like you're never gonna, and the first thing everyone does after the race is they just fucking load up Twitter. and then you just see the most fucking miserable human beings giving their takes on the situation. And like that's not helping anyone. Oh god, it's all fucked.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you know me, but I mean, I'm always like obviously say GGs and you guys play better regardless of the situation. Like, for example, this raid, like I never, like this time stuff is just what I hoped for. This happened, let's say, like with the time differences, that Blizzard maybe acknowledges the issue, I guess, and sees that this is like just not nice, I guess, let's say. That like obviously you guys start earlier, and if it's such a short race, like you just start early, you kill like half the bosses before we, let's say, enter the, or like, you know, on a,
no, like a literal Emerald Nightmare.
Yeah.
Like a literal
like,
Emerald Nightmare, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I guess you know what I mean. Yeah, like it's just weird, let's say. And then Blizzard is like, okay, so you have like these two teams that are keeping our race toward first entertaining and like driving millions of views to the game, let's say. And they don't even play at the same time. It's like the most fucked up situation, but I guess it didn't really happen, and it didn't really, like, they didn't really care about it, I guess. I thought there would be more discussion out of it, I guess. I don't know. There was a lot of discussion, but it was more flame, though. So that was kind of sad, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I wanted to have a proper solution, or not a solution, proper ideas of how to fix it, let's say. But there was a lot of things that came out was just like flame and no proper idea, to how to solve it, I guess. But there were some ideas that I liked, I guess, but they were very hard to solve, I guess, for just 100 people, I guess. Yeah.
You guys went through this race, I feel like what we did last time. So last time, well, first of all, I think in general, after races end, just straight up everyone in the race world first needs to get off Twitter for like a week and a half or something and just let the miserable people forget and move on to something else. But I feel like what happened is I like looked after last raid. I didn't log on Twitter for like 3 weeks, but I got linked some Dryny thing. And I heard our CEO like said the race was bullshit or something, which we were like, okay, why'd you do that? But then I saw Dryny tweeted something that I look back now and I completely agree with. It was just, dude, Blizzard needs to do way better with balancing this raid. Was like, We didn't even feel like we progressed any fight. We just fought them until they were impossible, and then they nerfed, and they instantly died. That is objectively true and super annoying, and something that needed to get fixed that both guilds agreed with. But because of the timing of the tweet, all the fucking miserable people were like, just, they took that so bad. I'm sure your guild did too, because I know this raid, you know, I go on, I feel like we played really well. The raid ends, and you guys felt this raid. I imagine some of you for sure felt exactly like we did after last one. Maybe you felt like you got beat, and we felt that way. We felt like you guys played better. But man, losing like that just feels like fucking shit, right? And
Oh yeah, I mean, of course.
and then I look at what some of you guys said on Twitter this time, and you're not really arguing with us. You're arguing with our fucking miserable ass fans. Not all of them, but the miserable ones. And I'm just like reading the stuff you guys are saying, and I'm just like, dude, I just don't want to see that shit. Like, this raid just ended. I'm not trying to see it seem like you guys are like egging on your fans to kind of feel more of the way that they feel right now. And then like last time, it kind of felt like that as well for us. So it's like there's no good way out of it. It's just, as long as the Race to World First has a global release difference, the ending can never be civil. It cannot be like clear. It's just always going to be marred in controversy, and it's just fucking awful, man. And I don't know how to deal with it. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, it was, I mean, this race was really weird, let's say, I guess. Mike was the prime target, actually. He just, like, he tweeted last time on Razagef, he tweeted about the global release should be a thing because of, like, the nerf things and whatnot, yeah? And no one really cared. And this time, he basically said the same thing, just different words, I guess, yeah? He was like, man, global release should really be a thing, especially if, like, raids become this short, yeah? And it was completely different responses. Yeah, the other time was like, oh yeah, let's see how it is. And this time it was like, man, like you're salty loser, and like holy fuck, there was the Omega flame war going on Mike's Twitter, yeah, and it was crazy.
Yeah, and that,
I mean, okay, Twitter is also not the right platform, I feel
yeah,
like.
dude,
but-
yeah, it's called X. It's X now. But yeah,
I'm sorry.
we need to get off X. Like, okay, here's why they react like that. Because when we are gaming, we are looking at the game. I don't know if you guys do this, but we do not have players look at Twitch chat. They're not on other Discords. I'm sure you do. And they kind of are just focusing on what we're doing. We're not looking at what people are talking about. But I'm sure there is an absolute fucking war zone in chat at all times during the race, as there normally is. So when they see someone like Gingy or someone like Dryny or me or Scripe or whoever say something on Twitter after you lose, they're not picturing what you, the Raiders, are saying and thinking. They are using you as a characterization of all of the awful takes they have seen from your fans over the past few days, and they're just assuming that you agree with that. So, like, our fans see Gingy say that. You know what EU fans are saying after this race? Oh, 16-hour advantage. Oh, fucking, like, we actually won. Like, what? Like, fucking A. Like, all this shit, right? And then our fans see that, and then they see Gingy tweet that, and they're like, oh, bro, like, how can you fucking condone this? And they think that you're making that argument. It's the same thing with Dryny. Dryny's just saying, yo, this is fucked. He was right. It was fucked. And you know what? We still lost. And our fans are probably like, what do you mean? Like, they fucking got nerfed when they were asleep. Like, only reason they lost. Like, fucking unfair. What is this, right? So then the EU fan reads Dryny load up Twitter, and they think that he's saying that we didn't lose, because that's all what our fans say. So, yeah, it's just...
Yeah, no, I know. I get your point. Yeah.
It's so fucking bad. I don't know how to deal with it. I like... that part of it, and maybe some players in our guilds don't care, and I honestly envy that, but it really, the really toxic fandom on both sides almost exclusively spawned by global release. If global release has been here this whole time, and we win just as many raids by, you know, whatever amount, and you guys still win just as many raids, do you think it's the way it is right now? I don't think so.
Wait, sorry. What do you mean? Like,
Every
I didn't
raid...
catch the-
Sorry, yeah, I know it's late. I know it's probably not clear, but, like, imagine... Imagine every race has gone exactly the same, but it's been global release from the beginning. Do you think there's as much toxicity and animosity in the community?
Oh, no, for sure.
No
not.
shot.
No.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just that's the one thing that I envy from anyone in our guilds who don't care about all this shit and just game, because it really bothers me. I hate seeing my accomplishments diminished. I hate having to argue with fucking fans and, you know, all that shit. It's so bad. I just wish it was a thing.
I mean, it bothers me as well, and I think the biggest issue I ever did it is that I don't have a like solution for it, I guess, yeah, because I mean, it is an issue. I think it's acknowledged from both sides that it is like just a fucked situation, but there's no real solution. So you just sit there and like you argue, and it's like that would be kind of cool, but how would you solve it? And then you come to the realization, I guess, you're a little bit aware that like is not really fixable in a proper way, I guess, without like completely restructuring or Blizzard maybe getting involved or something. And that is like, I guess at this point it's not happening, right? I think that is my personal biggest issue, that I would like to find a solution for it, but I really have not come to a proper one that makes any sense, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't
Like, it
want
would
to.
be-
I don't want to keep you up. Is it what time is it for you?
Oh, 3 a.m. But that's fine. I'm normally awake until like 5 a.m., so it's all
Oh,
good.
sick. Good.
But my Diablo has shifted my schedule a very not in favor of the the night. Yeah.
Bro, people are
Um,
saying gamer. I don't know what it is about EU players, but like every single EU player that's been in our guild, it's like staying up to like 5 to 10 a.m. is just like that's routine. That is you Scandinavians specifically stay up very late.
I don't know. I mean, I actually since how's it called? Since IRL has taken me a little bit as well. Yeah, like staying up this late is not good. Yeah. Like I actually have become a more human being outside of the Diablo race now. But yeah.
Dude, actually same. I like cut my stream hours. I stream like 20 hours a week or something, just like no time. And then Diablo came out and I was just like I was a fucking degen for a month, just all day every day slaying demons.
Yeah, the Diablo also, like completely off topic, but man, Diablo, you log on, like it was like after the MDI Cup, I logged on and like the guys were playing like Flex, Servo, and Narco or whatever. I queue into their group. I'm like, guys, I will play for a bit. Yeah, it was like 9 p.m. or something. Yeah, and I logged off. Next day, 7 a.m. I'm like, guys, where did the time go? Yeah, and next day the same thing happened again.
Jeez.
I log on Diablo. 20 hours gone. I'm like, where did the time just vanish? Yeah, Diablo's just eating it all up. I swear. I don't know what that game does. Yeah.
It's so crazy both ways because Diablo does two things. The feeling of there's nothing in the world that can make me get up from my computer and stop playing this game right now, like you just described, but also the duality of that. Like the feeling of when Diablo is you're over it, like I'm not getting as many upgrades. Oh, wait, I'm level 75 and I have to make it all the way to 100 and my build's not going to change and I'm not going to get any more powerful. It's like the feeling of how fast you're going to log off and there's nothing that anyone in the world could do to make you want to play that game is insane. Like both of them.
I mean, yeah, that's what happened to me earlier. I did like a tier 55, I think it was, or at level 75, yeah. Was just slaying some 110 monsters. I'm like, I mean, okay, cool, yeah. So I was just testing my build. Was like, I guess it doesn't change until I'm 100. So I'm like, do I really want to invest another 50 hours or whatever? How long I will take solo to level up to 100? I guess not. I close game. That's it, yeah. I'll play again next season, I think. So, yeah. It's crazy, though.
Yeah. All right, I think I'm going to head
Well-
out. I got to go get some food.
Yeah, I just had one last question, actually, because
What's
of the whole thing. What is your opinion, or like just a small thing, on like tournament RAM for the Race to First, yeah? Like just where you buy your gear, heroic gear or whatever, and then you just compete, yeah?
With like, are the bosses, I'm assuming, tuned differently than they are for live? Like they're tuned to be like crazy fucking
Well,
hard.
Yeah, I mean, they're tuned for the gear you get, but like, I mean, basically really good.
But like,
tuning.
if you think about it like that, they wouldn't really need to. Like, if we could just buy heroic gear, they could tune every single boss to be a certain level. Like, you could make Rashok a banger, you know, rather than
Yeah,
necessarily
exactly.
dying.
Yeah.
So like,
I mean, that would be the case, right?
yeah. So I think if I think purely for just myself, I think that would be awesome. There's no gearing, there's no split runs. The raid comes out, it's like this big event, and we have a set amount of eye level, and it's just the bosses are tuned to show exactly that. And I think that'd be dope. But I don't know of a way that isn't weird and like fucks over the rest of the game for that to be a thing. Because like on live, I feel like a big part of it is like people hate watching the split runs, but a lot of the community people love looking forward to like joining our runs and making a bunch of gold. And like what makes the race so unique in that it's not just a regular ass esport. It's like these are actually your characters that you're gearing up and like getting gear on. It's like it would be like really inorganic to just like not have that be a thing at all, even though I think it's become less and less like that because you don't just have a hunter anymore. You have 8 of them and none of them matter to you until one of them gets gear. So like that's, at least for us, I think that sentimental attachment is gone. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I think it'd be fucking sick. But is there a real world first on live? Is this done before the actual raid comes out? Is this like separate to our live? Does it matter if we even play live anymore? Is do our achievements transfer over? Like there's so
I
I have no clue about all of these specifics. Yeah, I was just like interested. I
Yeah,
guess,
I've thought about it a lot. I don't know if you feel,
Yeah.
if you've ever cooked up a good version of it, but I just don't see how it can exist without it kind of getting away from what WoW is in the first place, I guess.
Well, I mean, I cooked it up in terms of that this would be, if Blizzard gets involved in the race toward first, then it would be like MDI or Great Push, let's say, yeah. And they just make a tournament out of it. Like, for example, a good example, I guess, would be that I have thought of was that they bring Heroic Week back, let's say, I guess. And Heroic Week starts on retail, and the race toward first starts on tournament realm, let's say, yeah. And then you're on tournament realm, race toward first. You don't need Heroic Week, what is going on retail right now. You just play the race. I mean, if it takes 1.5 weeks, I guess whatever, like the few days that flow over into Mythic and retail is whatever. And you will basically have the live event going on while the raid released in Heroic. You have the Mythic event going on as a tournament from Blizzard with whoever wants to compete, basically.
Well, yeah, that actually sounds kind of sick.
Yeah, the only issue I came into is obviously if the raid is like 2-week raid, I actually highly doubt that would probably ever be possible anymore if in the current state the gates are in, I guess. But yeah, that was basically my idea, yeah, that while Heroic Week is going on retail, you have the tournament from Blizzard where Race Toward First is going on with Mythic. They kind of showcase what Mythic will be and coming out like in the next week and whatnot. So yeah. But I think this is only possible if Blizzard gets involved, yeah.
Yeah, I think Blizzard getting involved is something I've thought about a lot because, like, obviously we have like no idea what we're doing. We're out here like getting our own sponsors. You like learn as you go and all that stuff. But like having it be an official Blizzard thing, the money is covered by the prize pool. It also allows them to really advertise and endorse and take credit for something that is currently the, you know, one of the biggest drivers for their game. But man, I'm also scared of Blizzard getting involved. I don't really know how. Like what you just said is like utopia. That sounds great. But you know what could also happen is like they could absolutely fucking ruin it like they've done basically every other esport they've come in contact with. Like Overwatch League, StarCraft, Heroes of the Storm. And I could just see this really good community-based thing just kind of ruined and turned into some super corporate race thing. And then it would just not be the same. I don't know, but...
100%. I mean, yeah. They would definitely need to get a lot of feedback, or I mean, I don't know. They would just need to change their philosophy how they make esports, I guess. Yeah, and that is probably not going to happen, I guess.
So here's one thing they would do for sure. So you notice that in the TGP they have breaks, right? We talked about that earlier. I would bet why is because they don't want to have the impression of WoW being some game you're being unhealthy with. What do you think they do with the race?
I mean, of course, they would put limited, like they would put breaks or something that you need to do as well, yeah.
Yeah, forced time where you're not playing. And if it was around the same time, our guilds take a lot of breaks during the day. Like, I don't know, we have like, we're awake for like 14, 15 hours on most days. We're probably rating 10 of those, including the strat talks, breaks, things like that. So like, I feel like it wouldn't be that bad, but yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I don't think it is bad, but like, of course, we're not maybe the healthiest gamers during the race toward first, let's say. But I don't think it's like some inhuman times. Maybe the first day when you're like trying to push splits through so you're done or whatever if you can, and you do like a 16-hour, 17-hour day or whatever. But other than that, I think that we have a lot of breaks, yeah, in general in race toward first. Yeah, it would be an issue, I guess, yeah, for that Blizzard would put like a limit. You can't be in the raid outside of these times or something. I mean, they would find a way that would make it really awkward. I know it already. So yeah.
Oh, one last final thing. You said like you noticed that we pulled a little bit less this raid. So Ben is super good and was like one of our like really good players, and he didn't raid this raid. And I want to say that he actually even mentioned this after the raid that like he's usually the person in between strat talks in between every pull where he's like, yo, let's just pull the boss. Pull. Let's just chain pull. We just need attempts. We need reps. And, like, let's not worry about strategy. So I think Ben being gone, unironically, as good as he is, kind of helped us be more analytical and, like, look over things more instead of just chain pull. Yeah, so Ben definitely was the problem, as Chad is pointing out. So, yeah, just wanted to...
I mean, of course, there was, yeah. And that's actually one thing I must say, the pulling and whatnot. This is the biggest controversy, you can find, yeah. Like, some people are like, guys, I don't want to hear the next 18 WeakAuras I don't want to hear the spreadsheet. I want to pull the boss. And then other people are like, no, 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 let's go with the strat again.
Oh
and
my
you will never
God.
make everyone happy. Yeah, it's insane.
Dude, I feel like sometimes I'm fighting against a current. Like, I see our raid doing something wrong, and I have a literal point of view where I can show them exactly what I want versus what they're doing. And then sometimes they're just like, man, I just want to pull, you know? But I'm like, this is really fucking important that you all see this. But, like, and I know that, like, that's there's basically the same thing happens in our guild. Like, what do you do if you need to take 10 minutes off and you need to work out something with healer cooldowns, or you need to work out something with, like, the way you're using a rally here, or some kind of movement thing? Maybe that only involves like 5 to 6 people, but then all 20 people are not on break and sitting there listening to it, and then they're maybe zoning out. So like, finding the balance between, like, dude, if we were all perfect at this, every time we knew those things needed to get talked about, which you do know that they need to be, you would ideally have every single person who is not a part of that conversation go up and take a break and walk around and get water and do whatever they need to do, and then you'd have them come back at the exact right time. But in reality, sometimes having that extra communication and other people's input is important, that they know what they're doing. But also sometimes they're sitting there AFK for 20 minutes. I don't know if any of our guilds are ever going to figure out the best way to do that, but it is
impossible, I think. Yeah, because sometimes, like, you legit have 5 people in a conversation, and then it's completely relevant for the 18 other people to be there, whatever. And then another time you have like 10 other people or 15 even in the conversation, but they think they are not needed, so they already phased out basically, because the previous 20-minute discussion was like with 3 people only. I don't know. It will never be figured out. Actually, I think that's one big thing for that you guys have going that we don't have, is that when everyone is at the event, it's a little bit easier to catch, I guess, if people are there or not. But I'm also not so sure, because I think your room situation and stuff, you can't really see everyone easily.
Yeah, a lot of times it's like people are like, oh, I'm saying something to Scott, and then someone in another room will be like, oh, Scott's at the bathroom right now. And then like stuff like that. So like that would be kind of how that works. I think we had, I don't know how many people we had there. We had like 4 or 5 people who were in the raid all the time who are not there for whatever reason, just some health stuff. Some people had some real life things they had to take care of. But yeah, I definitely think it's good to have everyone there if you can help it, but it's hard to figure that out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wish it would be easier.
I was going to ask you something about like breaks or time or something at the event, but now I am having a hard time remembering it, and I think it's interesting. Oh, wait. Okay. How much do you guys sleep?
Normally 9 hours, I think.
So 9 hours in between the end and start of your raid?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something that we have always gone back and forth on. Like, so we ended Sepulchre, and because it was so long, the general response from raiders was like, we should just straight up get an extra hour of sleep a night. Because in that raid specifically, if we had done that in the long run, it would have paid off a lot, because people were getting exhausted near the end.
Yeah.
But then we applied it to Vault, and then I think that hurt us, right? Like, you guys had, like, the first time you had, like, your servers come up earlier, they lowered the release between our realms from, like, 12 to 8 hours or something, or 16 to 12. I don't remember exactly what it was, but, like, you guys got up much earlier in the morning, I think, in Vault this expansion than you ever have, and you did like some fucking 20-hour blast split day or some shit.
On Vault we had 2 20-hour days and 1 18-hour day, I think. Yeah, that was definitely not.
Oh, we've never done anything like that. So that was like
that was crazy.
So that was the raid specifically in which we were actually focusing on sleep more than anything else, and I think it kind of hurt us. Like, you just mentioned you did like 2 20s and an 18-hour day. We never raided more than 15 hours in that raid, meaning that by the time you killed Razageth, you actually had raided like an extra just straight up 9 more hours than we did from not sleeping, which is kind of crazy to think about. Because like, obviously people in chat could just be like, oh, well, why don't you do that all the time? But like, once you start losing sleep, that's like, that's something you don't really come back from when you have to do something like this, especially on an end boss, right? Because like, you hit a point on an end boss. This is actually, if people wonder why we went to sleep on Sarkareth at all, it's because we reached the point in the night where I knew that it was obvious to all of us that we were a little bit too tired to statistically be likely to have a pull where we could even kill it, because people were so tired. And then at that point on a boss that's an end boss, you're not killing that until you sleep. So we slept, but we only slept for 5 hours in between the start and end of raid. So how long do you think people actually slept? Like 3.5? That wasn't
3.5 to 4 max.
Yeah, like that wasn't enough to really gain back the amount of cognitive ability to do a fight like that. So like we almost fucked up. I think we slept a little bit too. It's easy to say in hindsight, but even just using hindsight, even if you guys had a chance to kill in the morning, we still should have slept longer because it was almost like we didn't go to bed at all. We had like an hour or two of good pulls, and then it was just, we almost went like death spiraled. We almost, like, if we would have not killed it before lunch, I mean, that could have gotten really bad because when you're low on sleep, it really affects you later in the day, and we could have just been playing like shit. So.
And then you have a lunch break as well. Then the food coma sets in, low sleep, and everyone is just sitting there like
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
So that was something I learned this raid, is that if we ever feel like we have to do a short night like that ever again, it's just there's a minimum amount of sleep that even makes sense to go to bed at all. Like in hindsight, we would have killed it faster if we stayed up, and we also would have killed it faster if we slept 2 more hours. So like we did like the worst possible thing.
We did actually the opposite this raid. Like in Vault, we got the feedback from the raiders, of course, that please don't do this again, because we were doing these 20-hour days and it was just not good. So this progress, we actually tried to properly have the breaks, and like we went to bed on the day, like on the last day, right? We got 9 hours of sleep. We like ended the day a little bit early. We're like, okay, guys, like tomorrow we blast the boss and whatnot. And it was definitely, in hindsight, completely the wrong decision. Yeah, we should have just said, yo, guys, the boss is probably killable tomorrow after seeing it, right? We just sleep 6 hours or whatever, and then we blast because we have been sleeping really long the other times. But we're like, oh, I guess it's not killable, or like we were in that mindset. So let's prep for the reset coming up in 2 days and have a good sleeping schedule, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a mistake, I guess, in hindsight, But
yeah, I mean, it's super easy for me to say that we should have slept longer, but I don't know. We just lost to not being awake for a boss being nerfed and killed. So, like, I feel like that definitely matters. Like, I'm not about to have the narrative for us losing 2 raids in a row being that we thought we could kill a boss and we were just asleep, you know? So, like, I mean, totally different fucking circumstances, but I mean, it still kind of matters where it was super in the front of our minds where, I don't know, I just never want to have that happen again.
I mean, I totally get that, right? And we were on the back foot. We were like, man, we slept too little, so let's sleep proper this time and have a good weekly reset, right? And stuff, so... And I think we failed to realize early that this raid is not going to go to reset,
Yeah, I think it was, man, it might have been when we killed Skarn and saw Magmarax, we were like, oh, this is not going to the reset. Like, because we had looked at, we knew Sarkareth was like a shorter boss. We don't have no idea how hard it is at that point. We had a pretty good idea of how we were going to handle P3, but like, obviously that changes when you see it. It just seemed like it's like, okay, we are just fucking destroying these bosses. Like, the tuning is just... In the past, what they would have done... Dude, if this raid was like Vault, if this raid was like Sepulchre, they would have seen our damage on Magmarax or Rashok and just increased Sarkareth's HP by like fucking 40%. Like, they would have just made sure it didn't... And then this raid, they just didn't do that once. They kind of seemed like they had a rule where they were just going to kind of let it play out.
Yeah, they were like, we're not gonna buff any. I was actually genuinely surprised, that they didn't buff bosses, because normally they always buff the later bosses if you're like overkilling the early bosses, right? I mean,
they did a little bit. So they buffed Neltharion and Sarkareth after we killed.
Well, I remember like 5% or something.
Yeah, it was like 5% after we killed Rashok.
Rashok,
yeah. Also Skarn. I think Skarn was super weird. I think if they saw us live at the end on the wall and we wiped, I think they would have fixed it. Actually, wait, maybe not, because it took them like fucking a year to fix it anyway, but later.
But didn't they also say that it was intended, the boss design, that you end up at the
They did,
wall,
yeah.
They said, I guess they wouldn't have fixed it.
They said they felt fine with people ending the fight on the wall, like as it being a last resort, but knowing that they couldn't stay there for very long. But I mean, obviously, in hindsight, you could do the whole fight on the wall, so that's probably not right. So they said the last 5 to 10% was fine. So like kind of how we did it was how it was intended to be done, I guess. Also, this raid really made me realize how big of a difference there is between like top guilds and even just like the average cutting edge guild. Like the amount of pulls that people spent on Rashok with 10 more eye levels than us, literally like over 100 pulls for guilds that are getting cutting edge, and Skarn. So like Skarn is basically Skarn from release, except you bait tactical destructions with your people instead of the boss, and the boss has 33% less health or 25% less health, and the ads have 25% less health. I looked at our logs. We would have wiped we wiped under 25% on Skarn, and it would even be a little bit higher than that because of the golem difference. On our 7th pull, that is the boss that people have been wiping to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, like before they nerfed it the most recent time. And that just shows you like the difference on very coordinated fights. Like Anduin was another one of these fights where we killed it fairly frequently or fairly quickly, but then like I think that's the most nerfed boss in the history of WoW, because there's just a certain level of coordination that if you're not at that point, it's just like it's impossible. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I also just checked our logs, and we had a 30% attempt on the 3rd attempt of the on Skarn. Yeah.
Exactly. So like this current boss that people are like
crazy.
reeing about on Twitter would have gotten 3-shot, 10 eye levels less the first time we saw it. So like,
Yeah, that's crazy.
and yeah, it's fucking insane. Dude, why
Yeah,
are
I
people
don't know.
spamming me to ask you about Wubby? I don't even know who is
Wait,
Wubby.
why? Oh, I mean, he was a healer that was with us in, first of all, not even this last raid here, but the previous one. So on Razageth. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, he just decided that he doesn't have fun playing Race to Reverse and quit, yeah.
Dude, I can't believe I just asked you this. I just got baited by a one-man spam zone saying, here's his chat history. Wubby is a great point to talk about. Please ask about Wubby. Sorry for nagging. For the last time, can I ask him about Wubby? It's a good point about healers. Sorry for nagging again. You still didn't ask him about Wubby? About what? Like, what do you mean? Anyways.
I mean, the answer was crazy, right? He just didn't enjoy it and he quit, yeah. Holy fuck. I hope the guy's happy.
Yeah, I hope that guy
whoever.
got the answer he needed. Please ask him about Wubby. Yeah. Yeah, holy shit. All right, well, I will let that one-man spam be the end of my stream today. I will... I'm gonna go grab some food. It was nice talking to you, man. This is a conversation that couldn't have happened a couple months ago because there's just so much shit surrounding the race, but it's usually good to talk these kind of things out, because if you don't, we're just gonna end up going crazy and hating each other and seeing the all of our opinions of each other are just based on our fans. It's pretty bad.
I mean, yeah, I don't want that. I'm always done to talk. Yeah, it was very nice chat.
Yep.
So yeah, enjoy the dinner. Or wait, it's dinner time, I guess, for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
It's 6 p.m. I'm feeling good.
Oh, 6 p.m. Holy, dinner time. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I will get a midnight snack, I think. Yeah, and then thank you very much, everyone, also for chatting. I guess. Yeah. Also the one guy for the Wooby question. Yeah. Yeah, and maybe we can do another talk after the next race if it goes hopefully better. Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, I feel like so when the race ends, I can tell you fully honest, I'm definitely open to these kind of talks right after the race ends if I win, and if I lose, I'm certainly not. Just being 100%. I just don't want to fucking
either or. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to fucking talk about it. So like, I know that you guys probably feel pretty similarly. So like, I don't know, but I can tell you it could do a lot of good, because if all of our fans are just fucking going wild, having a talk like this right after the race would just kind of, I don't know, let all of them move on with their lives or something. And that would maybe be for the greater good, but man, would that fucking suck for whichever one of us loses. But all good.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely always a little bit awkward when it's like right after. I get that, yeah. Especially when you're talking about we did like better here, and obviously you personally feel like
Yeah, you feel differently.
you probably
like,
you didn't do better. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, of course, I mean, I get it, yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, maybe we'll see. But yeah, it was nice having a chat. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
See you, man.
wish you a nice dinner. See ya.
Yep, see ya.